What's up, Max? Long time no see. How are you?
I'm good. It feels good to finally be back on like the podcast, back talking about RC. Like I've been like designing parts and like doing shit like that behind the scenes, but like now to be back, like nerding out about RC. Haven't done that in a while. That's gonna be nice.
Well, dude, it is our first episode of 2023. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about because silly season just went berserk in the last 2 weeks, I would say. So let's stop beating around the bush and let's get into it because we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to talk about on this first podcast of 2023. Let's hit that intro.
Nitro is the glory, but e-buggy pays the bills. Welcome to the No Name RC podcast. Get ready for some serious bench racing. But be warned, we speak our minds, express our thoughts, and sometimes things can get a little rowdy.
Hate, and he just was influenced by the hate coming from the left, the hate coming from the right.
And let's get back to more club racing and less of this money-grabbing book racing.
It's hard not to be arrogant when you're always right. Yeah.
See what I mean? That's exactly why people call you arrogant, Max.
You may not agree with everything we say, but it's definitely worth a listen.
And our pick, can you stop whatever you're doing?
Join your host, Lefty the Great, with co-hosts and guests as they get together to chat RC.
Hey, after that race that I watched this morning, I have to talk about it.
Here we go. $100 right here, $100 throw. Oh no! I like this.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Nitro's the glory, but e-buggy pays the bills. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 218 and the first episode of 2023 of the No Name RC podcast. I'm your host, Keenan White, aka Lefty the Great. And to my virtual right is the all ever arrogant one, arrogant Max Mort, who is looks like he's out and about in the wilderness now, but he's not. He's actually moved into a new apartment and he's still setting up his studio stuff. So what's up, Maxie? Good to see you again. I have not, we've been messaging, but we haven't really talked in a few weeks. I don't even think before I went on to the South America tour. So good to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be back talking about RC. So,
yeah, you sound so excited. Come on, man. We got to get excited about this. We got to get excited.
No, I mean, I'm excited.
We have a lot to talk about.
Like, there's so much to talk about.
I know we have so much notes, and we might have some, we might have some news in between this. So I don't know, man. We have a lot to talk about. So anyway, with that said, let's get into everything. First off, Happy New Year to everybody out there, and I hope you guys had a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays or whatever. I was watching everybody on Facebook. It seemed like everybody I know had a safe holidays. That's good to see. We're in 2023, and let's get ready. This is we're actually starting a little bit earlier than usual. Usually I wait till after like at least the 6th of January. But man, we got so much to talk about. I want to get excited. Well, this will be released on the 6th of January. But anyway, thank you everybody for the love that was sent to us over the holidays. And we're back and we're excited to be back. So if that said, I want to say thank you to all of the patrons. All of the NNRC squad around the world. Without you guys, none of this is possible. Thank you to all that showed us some love in 2022. Please continue to show us love by, hitting that like button, subbing, sharing, and hitting everything on that YouTube. If you listen to it on the audio side of things, leave some comments, leave some reviews, share that stuff. If you have friends that aren't listening to us, get it out to them. We want to grow this year. Also, thank you to the patrons of the podcast as well as the YouTube members. That's right. You can be a YouTube member as well. If you don't wish to be a patron, it's very easy to do. You guys got some extra stuff this week as well. You got a Patreon pod and a giveaway. And you will get early release of this because it's being recorded a little bit late, but you will get early release of more Patreon and YouTube member only stuff, and planning on doing a lot more giveaways this year as well in that sector. So if you want to support the podcast a little bit more, you can go over there and support us via YouTube membership or Patreon. The link is in the written description of this podcast. Also, thank you to all the sponsors of the podcast from last year and those that are continuing this year. I'm not sure who's continuing or not, so nobody said no yet. So that's good. Well, some have. But thank you to Invisible Speed. They will stay on as our primary premier sponsor as well. Hitec RC was talking to them. They got some exciting things in the mix. Their 50th anniversary coming up. I heard they have some real exciting news coming up as well. TNR Fuel, shout out to Chris and those guys. They got the TNR race coming up very shortly. Sunpadow USA, thank you to Hefty for all his continued support. I believe, I don't know, maybe I'm going to let this release a little bit later, but I heard some news that he might be importing some engine stuff. Beach RC, shout out to Brent and Lucas and all the guys down there. Techno RC, Techno RC signed a big gun this year. We're going to talk about that and more. Lugs RC Racing, shout out to Tony Newland and Vicky Newland, Clinic RC, Race Tech Engines for all their support coming on again this year. Papa Willie's Traction Tonic, Ardent Imprints for all my hats, man. Greatly appreciate that. If you guys want to get some NNRC swag, check out Ardent Imprints on IG or hit up Jason Bukal. And for all your printing and embroidery needs in the USA. And then shout out to RC Haas over in the UK who's doing our NNRC swag, Europe and UK. You can get your NNRC swag over there as well. Links for all of this will be in the written description of this podcast. Also, shout out to Racecraft USA. Just saw they're shipping out a whole bunch of stuff. They got some command modules in. Congratulations to them. Super. Love the advertising. House of RC 2.0 should be dropping shortly. My good buddy and good friend who's come on as part of the team to help us out with some of our graphics is Danny Paz of WRCE. I'm hoping to work with Danny a lot more this year. If you guys are looking for a very good option for streaming your races, hit us up. Danny's the guy. We can offer all-in-one packages. Shout out to I don't know what's going to happen with RCGP, but I always got to show them some love. Shout out to RCGP. And shout out to, I guess these are NNRC drivers. David Runafalk with Runafalk Racing. Also, remember, he got hacked, so he had to restart his Facebook and Instagram. So go hit him up, give him a like, give him a whatnot, because he did have a lot of Instagram and Facebook followers. JTP RC, shout out to Jared Tebow. Still, yeah, I think Jared Tebow's had the most hype over silly season so far. We're going to talk about him and his move. Also, shout out to Robert Battier, who we just saw is going back to South America later on this month. He's going to Tico race. It's like an all brick race or concrete track. He's going to Uruguay later on this week. Later on this month. And of course, shout out to our good friend, the Dr. Alex Hackbarrett, who's in America racing as well. So, Max, all I have to say before we racing's on hot and heavy right now. There's a lot of racing going on, and I just don't know how. We got a lot of racing going on this weekend. Just this weekend, Max. Just this weekend. We got 2 big races going on, 10 scale and 1/8 scale. But I'm going to touch on that real quick. In some more somber news, sorry. See, I'm getting ahead of myself. Links and coupon codes, affiliate links, everything can be found in the written description for all of our advertisers above. We are looking for more companies to come on board. If you like what we're doing and you want to be a part of the NNRC and want to be a part of the fastest growing media platform in RC, hit us up and ask for our tiers. We're looking to have like-minded people on to support us and grow together. Also, in some somber news, I want to say RIP to Corey Merritt, SoCal stalwart, good friend of Greg Degani, Jay Smoker, and all those guys. Came up in the Attitude Era. He passed away, lost his battle with pancreatic cancer, passed away just before New Year's. Corey, I got to know him. I got to really kind of know him at the last couple of DNCs, and then he was at Silver State. He was, in a lot of pain, but he used to call Greg every day when we was at the Worlds. That was crazy. When we was at the Worlds, he'd call Greg every day to find out what was going on. He still wanted to know. I know he listened to the podcast a lot. and I was happy to get at least to know him and meet him before he passed away. Quick story about Corey is he used to work for Proline, and he used to work at the night shift Proline. This is when Proline was banging, booming, you know. And rumor has it that he mixed compounds together, like mixed some compounds and made some secret compound, and Chad Bradley got it and won some championship with it. That's the rumors. I don't know how true it is, but yeah, our condolences to his family. SoCal lost a stalwart of their RC community. Max, before we go on any further, getting right into the nitty gritty, how was your Christmas, dude? How was that and all that stuff?
Yeah, I actually had a good time. Like finally after COVID, had all of our, you know, related family together, spent time together and just hung out, and yeah, I had a lot of fun. Just chilling mostly. Like at the end of the year, just had a lot of school stuff. Then pretty much been on holiday since. Obviously, I moved last week, so that was a bit of a thing. But yeah, I've been just like taking some time off finally.
Yeah, I get it. I get that. So I guess you went up and spent it with your family or your girlfriend's family or what?
Yeah,
okay.
My family. She was there with her family, so we are a few weeks apart. But yeah, now we have our new apartment and been just like trying to get all furniture set up and shit.
Well, I appreciate.
I gotta say, not a huge fan of moving. Who would have known?
Get used to it. You're probably going to do it a few times in life.
Yeah, probably have to, but
get used to it. My Christmas was very quiet. I was very, very tired and fatigued after that 4 weeks on the road, and it took a while to get back. I'm getting old. I'm out of shape. I know I need to get in shape. But basically, kind of rested up. Christmas was quiet. It was very quiet. New Year's was even quieter. I don't even think I stayed up to 12. No excitement here on that term. On that. My excitement was watching my kids open up their gifts on the 25th. And that's about it, man. Over 8.
Yeah.
Drank a few beers. Like, that's about it. Nothing too special.
Yeah.
Nothing too special.
I'm not a huge sort of like have an amazing New Year's party or shit.
I do love Christmas though.
I'm just like fucking, it's Christmas, it's New Year's, it's just like fucking hang out. You know? I
do like Christmas. But I do like Christmas. New Year's, that hanging out till late is, I'm past that. I'm getting too old for that shit. You still have a lot of time to do that.
Yeah.
But very quiet. I try to turn off for a bit, but as you know, that's impossible, especially with, it seemed like little moves were being made, and man, it's been hard because so many people have been asking me where this person's going, who's going where. I know you know who's going here, and I know a lot of things. I just can't say them all. But we're going to talk all about that this week on this podcast. And you know what? I think we should just get kind of right into this stuff, man. What do you think we should start on? Should we just go? I don't think we're going to do any sponsors or anything like that. We're just going straight into, we're going to talk about it. Let's get into the RC news. Then we'll get into some questions, because the RC news, we only have really one subject to talk about, and I know somebody asked about this in the RC questions. So I think one of the biggest news coming out that wasn't silly season, but it is silly season related, was the Horizon Racer Payout Program. Now, this does link it to silly season as well, but yeah, let's talk about this, because a lot of people are, the people who like TLR and are loyalists to it, they seem to be all about it, which is expected. The people that are now out of TLR because of things like this, they're obviously against it. And then, of course, we have the internet and everybody's going crazy. And I think this might have had a bunch of comments on one of my posts over Christmas or over when it was announced.
This was definitely one of the biggest posts on Live RC, I think. The Racer Payout Program, like not taking into account the silly season stuff, obviously, but like general news, I think this was probably the biggest news piece of the silly season time. And I think like hard to say what the overall reception was. It was pretty much like, you know, some people liked it, some people didn't, but I don't think it was that big about, you know, people were just like talking shit about like whatever. I don't know, like not. About
it's gonna be, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I'm trying to make an active effort not to cut you off.
Yeah, it was like it's hard to tell what the public perception of it was. But yeah, before we go into like what we think about it, I think like programs like these have never really hurt brands. So like, I think the overall reception was pretty good. I mean, some people were like, "Oh, if you buy like what." I saw some shared posts, like people shared that if you buy VP Pro tires, you get them for so cheap that even if you don't win, it's cheaper than getting the payout and buying Pro Line. But like that's I don't know, like tires are a thing that, in my opinion, like that's not you should buy the right tires and you can win, not try to get the payout. Chassis, it's a different deal, but. Yeah, I kind of like the fact that they do it for all of their brands. So if you drove those brands, you get the benefit.
All right, so let's for those who don't know anything about this, let's just give a quick synopsis of this. So basically, what Horizon's done with their race program, which is TLR, Proline, AKA, and Spectrum, they are so what they've really come up with is a contingency plan, and we had this at JQ Racing as well. So it's a cash contingency. It's called the Racer Payout Program. They have a contingency program totaling more than $360,000. They finally fixed it. Available for qualified races. These incredible brands will offer contingency opportunities for racers competing in 1/10 two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive buggy, and on the 8-sail side of the sport. I'm glad that they called it a sport. So they're going to have contingency for Nitro Buggy, E-Buggy, Nitro Truggy, and E-Truggy. Yeah, you can add it to the stream, Max. Let's add that. Yeah. So it will reward drivers from the sportsman level up to the pro ranks and will pay out the top 3 drivers. The top 3 drivers make the podium and get paid cold hard cash, no gift cards or credit here. The RPP was created for has created a nationwide list of 15 tier 1 national level races and tier 2 regional level races to give everyone a shot at winning. We will be adding races throughout the year as the new tier 1 and 2 level races are announced. So let's just go. The payouts are example. The Racer Payout Program has 2 separate tiers of payouts. One based on the prestigious national level races, tier 1, and one geared more towards the regional type races, tier 2. So basically races like DNC, PNB, obviously those have a lot more value than, no offense to anybody, than JBRL or maybe some of these smaller regional races.
There's surprisingly many like tier 1 races. So SIC, DNC, pretty much all of the race time events, all of Joey's events, Raw Nationals, obviously. And like big 10 scale events are here also.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
There's a lot of events they've listed here, so that's even like JBRL, like they have that's in tier 2, obviously.
Yes,
but you can get payouts from those series as well, and the amounts are quite good. Like if you look at it here, like you can get, and this is the craziest part of it. This is that from Sportsman, if you win running TLR, Spectrum, and AKA, you win $600. If you win.
Is it in Sportsman? Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, you have to. So I think it also breaks down where if you use just one of their products as well, correct? So if you just use the TLR chassis.
Basically how it works is if you use TLR and you win Pro Nitro Buggy at tier 1 event, you get 400. If you use TLR and Spectrum, you get 400 twice. If you use TLR, Spectrum, and AKA, you get 400 like 3 times. So the maximum you can get from one win is 1,200.
Okay, cool. Got you.
From Pro. From Sportsman is obviously lower, as you can see here. But I think the payouts are pretty good. And
I see that they're only paying off for the top 3. I believe when we did it at JQ Racing, we paid up to the top 10.
Depended on the event. It really depended on the event. So we had it like bigger events, it was top 10. Smaller events, it was top 3.
Dude, we had DNC at like $5,000 or something like that, or
Yeah,
$3,000.
we had big, but the thing is, the issue was, with
DNC
issue
first
of this-
nitro buggy.
yeah, in my opinion, the issue of these payout programs is that the guys who are gonna win pro classes are most likely, not having to deal with this contingency anyway. They have a contract,
Right, they have contingency. I get what you mean.
But
So
then
that
the guys,
that part of it's like null and void. This is more for the
Yeah.
intermediate drivers and sportsman drivers, which is great. So
but then again, I think this was sort of one of my critiques. So that I put down also. The issue is like, for the pro drivers, this doesn't make any difference because they will always have the contract contingency already. For sportsman drivers, you shouldn't be sponsored. You shouldn't be like taking it seriously because it's called sportsman, and that's sort of the idea. But then you can get money out of it. So like, yes, this is going to introduce a massive amount of sandbagging. So
it's going to make things a lot more serious too now because guys are got money on the line.
Yeah. So in my mind,
you said something about this a few months ago, or maybe earlier last year. He was like, "Oh, what if people start getting replaced for contingency for sponsorship? People gonna go. It's gonna be fights at RC races."
Yeah, and that's, in my opinion, the biggest issue. And to be honest, like the only issue of this program is that it pays down to sportsmen. Because yes, I do think it's nice that sportsman drivers can get something back, but there is no proper regulation of what is a sportsman. Like, I mean, every single big race last year, I saw Facebook post this, the guy who won sportsman should have been in intermediate.
Yeah, but I didn't even want to open up this can of worms this has opened up, which is the same can of worms we get asked every freaking race. Who can sponsor guys running sportsmen? And it comes back to this simple thing that sponsorship does not equate to ability.
Yeah, and also to me, it like if you want to have classes that like have monetary value, like here, it like if some guy just said like, I'm gonna buy my shit, like like if you were Ryan Mayfield, or let's take a better example, if you were an old retired pro, and you were just like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna go privateer and run every single like sportsman class as a privateer and went to every single race, you could easily get like a few thousand each race back from this program.
Okay.
So like if you, I'll count it up so people can sort of understand what I'm going after. Okay. So basically, if you went to sportsman nitro buggy, sportsman nitro truggy, and then you run 40 plus nitro buggy, then you run these three classes. Oh, it's also e-truggy and e-buggy. So you run 5 classes. You pay 100 for each class to entry, so that's 500 down. Then you use 3 of these brands, TLR, Spectrum, and AK, for example. So you get $600 per class. So in the end, you get 3,000 as the racer payout wins. You pay 500 for the entries and a few hundred for the what travel and whatever.
Right.
So in the end, if you were a really, really fast driver and you'd be sure you can win all of these classes, you could just get to race around America next year. All of these races you could go to, race essentially for free, and hang out with your friends. For free.
Now the problem is now you're gonna give people ideas.
No, but like
I know what you mean. Theoretically, you can do this.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, like, if you are, a guy who, and the thing is, the silliest part of this is that I'm like the guy who, signed up as the trophy hunter for intermediate and pro, whatever he did. Guys like that will 100% do it because you can buy just one TLR car few sets of tires, an engine, shit like that. And then, you just use those and you beat much lesser competition. So if the racing isn't part of it, just traveling around America and doing shit like that, and just have a receipt like Greg Degani and say you're not a pro. So like that to me is the biggest issue. If it was intermediate, it made much more sense, because if you win intermediate, then you should be sponsored already, and then it doesn't become cheaper.
All right. Well, I don't want to even beat that dead horse anymore. Let's stop there, because I want to talk about some of the reactions to this and why. Okay, so when Horizon does things like this, it's big because it's a big company, correct? Now, it's not to say that other companies don't have this going on. Small Jakey Racing had it. I've heard of other companies that have contingency as well. Now, what they've done is, if they've made it where this has to come back to what I've been hearing as well. Thomas Tran's always been talking about this, making a smaller team. I heard there was major budget cuts. This is what I heard. This is the rumors. I don't know how true this is. But basically, I heard that Tran came in under budget and then got cut. Like they said, "Oh, you came in with less, so we're going to give you less." I don't know how true that is.
That's how it works. Like anyone who's worked at a big corporation or government, you should always go over budget. So next year you're gonna get cut. So that's what happens like at big corporations. You go over budget on purpose. So if you're in October or like November, you look at your budget, and if it looks like you're going under, you just buy a fuck ton of shit for like coffee.
I mean, that's how you illegally do. I guess that's how you falsely do.
No. That's what like every big corporation. Like if you have a small office that is under a big corporation, like military does this. Like every single corporate structure. That's like normal.
So I don't know how normal that is, but anyway, I guess it is. But I'm not a business guy like that. But so they came in, and I don't know how true this is, but I think this is why we have to touch on SillySeason. That's why Cav's not there. And we saw a few. I know like there's a lot of guys that were out on TLR that were on big deals. They don't have them no more. They've been dropped. I heard like guys got dropped to 50%, and 50% got dropped to 30%, and then this whole you can get this contingency plan is to make up for the percentage that they don't have, and people aren't happy about that. I mean, I saw like Charlie Mariona, who is a very talented 10 scale racer. He's not going to do all the A mains at these. He's made some A mains, but he's not going to do all of racing. Of making them steadily. He's gone. So I'm thinking that this guy's been with TLR for 11 years, loved them. He's just gone like. So I'm thinking like guys like this maybe he didn't get the deal that he wanted. But just people around, maybe who had big deals ain't getting it no more. And you know what, man, this may be the unpopular opinion, but this is what's needed in this industry by all companies. It's called like, just get like so what they're doing is making it accountability. So basically, okay, you want a big deal? Here you want to get your money off. Well, here you go out and race. I know people can say, well, I have to come top 3, but should be the goals you're aiming for. You should be aiming to win and all this type of stuff. So what it does is it gives this sponsorship to people who are being sponsored accountability to see, okay, are you worth your deal? Are you coming first, second, third at these races? Are you doing well? So you are supplementing what you lost with your deal with contingency. And then maybe that changes next year where you get bumped up. That's kind of how it should be. But you have to do that with a smaller team, and you have to be able to monitor it. So I think a lot of people that are really against this, obviously because it's Horizon, it's not new. It's happened. I mean, maybe not deals haven't been bumped on like this and stuff like that. But it gives accountability to the company, because if you do well, you get rewarded, right? And it gives accountability to the person who's racing. So that way you don't have guys that are, I'm on a 75 deal and I have only raced once this year.
Yeah, that to me, that is the biggest issue with the current, business structure of RC. Right now, the business structure works that the company basically assesses that is this guy worth taking a loss? If it's not, then you give him a 40 off, 50 off deal. So you go at 0. And then like some drivers, you're like, well, is this guy, does this guy running our brand have any benefit to us? And if it's yes, then you give them a 20 off deal, So basically the thing is the company has to assess the value of the driver and then on that base the discount of that driver. It's not about, we want to sponsor this guy because they think he's going to be good. It's a business decision. It's like, hey, this is strictly business. These type of programs are better because it puts an incentive to both parties. It puts out an incentive for the driver to win, to get Horizon exposure, and then Horizon pays back as money. So there's incentive to both do the right thing, get first at races. Now the sportsman and intermediate and that angle I talked about earlier, that makes that more, not that, nice. It makes it a bit more difficult to do it proper incentives, but the incentives are still there. You go to races to win. I think if they would just cut out sportsmen, this would be fine, totally fine.
Okay.
So to me,
do you think we're gonna see more companies follow suit like this? Because I think it's gonna come to a point. All right, so Mayako done it their kind of way. We see Horizons doing it their way. We see? So I guess this is what I'm looking at. Horizon will eat the bad press right now because it is some bad press, bad publicity, and they'll eat it. They'll lose some drivers and stuff like that. They'll gain some drivers as well, but they'll lose some more or whatever. But I think in the long run, it's gonna be successful because I'm sure the people that's crunched the numbers have said, well, we can afford to lose people, and we. It still comes back down to like, hey, make people accountable for what they're doing.
Yeah, having incentives and having accountability. That's the two things. Like Associated and these big companies, when they give out sponsorship, it always says like, hey, you have to make this many social media posts. You have to go to track wearing this. No one follows them and no one gets kicked out of the team, And that's one of the issues. Like there's no accountability. In like a regular sponsorship that used to be. Well, it still is, but it's like people have certainly tried to find a way. And the thing why I think this is somewhat the right way, or at least justified way, is because Horizon functions as a company. There has been guys who have looked at the numbers and said, the way we're doing this now isn't sustainable. Someone has said that and done this. They wouldn't.
Of course, it's not sustainable. We've been saying it for a long time. So we're going to see more adjustments.
To me,
I think we're just going to see more teams doing things like this.
Yeah. To me, though, the perfect combo, I want to get this out too, is having some getting customers that like the brand and respect the brand, and then getting them to sort of buy the sponsorship effectively the Mayako membership program, for those people who just want to belong to a team. And then for those who just want to get results, get some kind of, some kind of reward for that, then you have the payout program. So I think combining these two would be the perfect, strategy for RC going forward for a few reasons. One is that you are not undercutting the hobby shop to get more customers. Number two, it gives back to the racers more, like if you buy something as a member, you buy the membership from Mayako, you get something back. You get extra privileges of having access to different things, and then you also get the discount, whatever. But then Mayako doesn't effectively lose on this situation, because if someone buys more parts, yes, they get the discount, but then again, someone buys more parts, so they get more sales. And that takes the sort of pressure off the manufacturer to just sell out kits, sell out things, and undercut the hobby shop, which is the issue. Undercutting hobby shops and retailers and
I know there's going to be many people that don't agree with us here, and they're going to say call Horizon the big bad Wolf and all this stuff. But I think to wrap this up, I agree with you. I think we're in both agreement that this is a good step forward, I think.
Yeah.
But I do think it has its cliff.
I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think this is a thought out idea, and it has some like actual good ideas behind it in terms of sustainability of RC. These are not things that you can just say like, oh, it's this and this and this. It's like you have to look at the very big picture, then look at how money works and how like corporations work and what it does to the structure of RC, and then come to a conclusion. So it's not like this could be a podcast on its own, but I think, the points we went through are sort of the main points, at least the points I said. And I think, overall, I think it's at least an interesting concept to see how it comes out next year.
I agree. Reds Racing have released a backplate that's got a lot of buzz going on in RC. So from my understanding, the layman's term and basic acknowledgement of is this basically it's a bearing system for the connecting rod to go to, so it just doesn't wear on the backplate as much. So it's like a bearing for the con rod, like an extra bearing on the end. Is that correct?
Yes. So effectively what this is
and before we go on any further, thank you. We're using Circus RC because, she's probably one of the easiest websites to watch and look at all the stuff. So shout out to Circus RC.
Yeah, Chris is definitely one of the guys who's taken biggest, have followed like the silly season from start to where we are now. So thanks to him and good job on following the news. So this was, in my opinion, probably the second biggest piece of news during the silly season. At least like Facebook news, whatever you want to characterize it as. But basically what this is normally you'd just have a backplate and then you'd have the conrod spinning in the, like not against the backplate but with a little bit of distance between it. And most engines will have enough play where the conrod will touch the backplate and scratch it a bit. So there will be a slight amount of friction there at times, especially like high RPMs and stuff like that. But also what happens is there is oil and fuel moving through there. So that causes some surface tension, and then it drags, a little bit. So with this, the idea of this is to make the backplate, inside of the backplate rotating. So while the conrod moves, the backplate moves with it. So that way you would reduce the friction to pretty much zero because you have the bearings. And then you would reduce also the drag of the oil and fuel inside there moving between the conrod and the backplate. Now, my thoughts on this is I really don't have a proper idea of, is this going to be a noticeable difference? I'd expect it to like raise RPMs, lower fuel consumption a bit, but I do see that it's, first of all, adding a bit of weight. Don't exactly know how much, but definitely 5 to 10 grams, I'd say. Also, there now is a much bigger chance of a leak, and also a much bigger chance of the bearings failing and that backplate exploding into the back of the engine. So those are the biggest, worries of the system. Judging from the fact that they have uploaded CAD photos, I'd imagine this design doesn't have that much testing on it. But it's hard to say. Basically, how I would, characterize this is it's an interesting concept, but I don't know. It's hard to say if it actually works, and it increases the liability of the engine a lot. Like extra point of leak, extra point of failure. Extra weight.
What would be the okay? So as I'm imagining this in my pea brain right here. So basically, the conrod, that round spacer that's connected. That's going to be spinning with the connecting rod.
Yeah. So effective, if you have the design, here's the back plate and here's the con rod spinning like this, moving the,
right. So that's spinning.
Like this. Yeah. So when you spin it like this, it has a little bit of a gap, but because of the fact that it moves a tiny bit, it has some oil and fuel between it, it will start to sort of have a little bit of resistance and drag from the backplate, even though there's a gap between it. So with this backplate, the idea is that the backplate itself is spinning and it will spin with the con rod. So that reduces the drag and the friction, I guess, if you have it touching the backplate.
I mean, is it worth the reliability issues to get that is the performance gain worth the possibility? We don't know if it's going to have reliability issues, but that's a big fear. Or the issues that can come with it. Does the performance gain outweigh the issues that can happen with it?
My estimate would be no.
Okay.
But it would be hard to say. I mean, it could be that it like decreases fuel consumption a lot. Like, I mean, that could be the case. So that would be very, very worth it if it does. But then again, like, would I rather have an engine that has a chance of breaking another bearing than getting, let's say, 30 seconds less mileage? I don't know, but it's hard to say. It's hard to say like before we see it in action. But my guess would be that not a lot of Reds team drivers are going to use this. I think this is sort of a concept thing. Maybe in like 5 years they have a better solution that works this way, and But my estimate would be that this isn't revolutionary. This isn't going to be a revolutionary thing in engine design.
Okay. All right.
But it's moving on. Though. A lot of people.
It is very interesting
about it. Yeah.
Maybe I would love to get Marco is the one that speaks English. Maybe get them one and have them. I want to know more history about the family and everything.
Yeah. And, they definitely always have looked ways to innovate the engine. So, for example, like Mario's, the horizontal needle system, where the top needle, instead of being at an angle, was straight against the lower speed needle. I personally like this in the way of, it had some benefits, the throttle feel, but the tuning was really difficult. So
maybe they'll revisit it in the future with better materials, better technology.
But
this is how we go forward too.
There was things about it that was better, but hard to say if it will ever come back again. And they have settled on the 3 needle setup, like the OS and pretty much all existing brands with middle needle, low speed, and top at an angle.
Okay. We're gonna touch on this. Joseph and I did talk about RCGP not continuing in 2023. I want to touch on this real quick because you have it here in the notes, and then we're going to go into some questions. As we know, it's not continuing in 2023. I talked to Isherwood yesterday, and he says he's still working on things for RCGP. So I don't know what the plan is with this. If he's going to continue it or not. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's going to be very hard to continue this after a year off. Or what happened?
I think the brand is known enough.
It's still viable
and viable enough where it's not worth it to just throw it out.
It could be a virtual series.
That could be one. Another way to do it could be, like special events. There has been ideas.
Maybe that's like a one-off race. Maybe
so
a race team that can be sent to do races. Who knows?
Yeah, something like that. And definitely David is passionate enough about this project that he won't just like quit and forget about it. He'll definitely try to figure out a way to make it work. Maybe in another form, perhaps find a way to do the serious thing, but better. But I do hope we find a way to do a World Series. Maybe we need to just say that, hey, we can't use that much money in media production or whatever. And then just be like, hey, let's just have these guys compete with each other. Maybe choose like existing races that, agree to do it some way. And but I think, like, to be honest, in my opinion, the biggest reason it failed was not that it didn't do a good enough job. It was just like people didn't want it to do a good job. People didn't want it to succeed. Like, brands actively boycotted the series. Brands actively tried to undermine the series. And I think that is a big reason why it ended up failing. Not that RCGP itself did a bad job or a worse job or whatever, you would argue. I think it's just that it takes things like this take time, and it takes, like, something like F1 or MotoGP or LMP1, for example, or even the World Rallycross series. Like, those things have took like many tries to get it right, And
I agree.
Some have done it really well, and some have fallen down, then gotten back up, So yeah, I do think there is a time for RCGP to come back. But yeah, not this year.
I mean, for all purposes, we do have a series. It's just not in America. We have a series. You can go DNC, PNB, Silver State, Nationals. Probably throw in Wicked Weekend or AMS or one of those races. And you have a series there in America. Yeah. But to get a World Series, it's going to take a lot of time. Yeah,
I'd like to do sort of in an RC podcast view of the future of RC, like, an utopian world where we slowly build up back to having RCGP and it functioning. I'd like to discuss that because now it's clearly we can say RCGP failed. The way they did it didn't work out, and you have to try again because in the end, I'd say there is no person in the professional RC world who says, having professional media production and a professional world series is bad for RC. I don't think there is anyone in working or like actively liking RC who's like, this is a bad thing. So we all, at least my assumption, we all would want something like this, but perhaps we need to find alternative ways to make this happen. And I'd find that way for sure.
I agree. RCGP wasn't perfect, but there was lots of other things that happened that made it hard to.
Yeah.
I hope it comes back in some form. But I'm a little disappointed. But it is what it is. I will say this: I really enjoyed my time with RCGP last year. I learned a lot, and I'm forever thankful for them taking me in and teaching me something new.
Yeah, you even have their shirt on. So.
Yeah, I know. It's comfortable. All right. Yeah. You know what? We're gonna go on to some. There is a lot more RC news, but a lot of it has to do with silly season. So we're gonna go on to some questions here. I think this year the question is going to be sponsored by Invisible Speed. It only makes sense because it's usually JQ and you answering an Invisible Speed bench racing Q&A. We haven't gotten all that worked out yet. It's still early, but remember, everybody, you can get Invisible Speed and make your speed visible. That's what you got to do because it's really good. The book or the course, check it out. And soon to come, I guess, clinics. I didn't even talk about with my South America trip because I went talked about it in the whole podcast. So I didn't think it was needed to talk about it anymore.
Looking at your social media was quite a success.
Thank you. I kind of burnt out by
it looked
Chile.
Really fun and
then they were like, "Don't post it. You're posting too fast." This is Robert and JQ. We need to post too. So I had to stop posting.
Yeah, you're a professional social media influencer,
Some days. Before we go on, did you see that there's a new Raw president, right?
Oh yeah, that's definitely good news. What I heard from him on the podcast where he was on, it was positive, and I'd be very excited to him getting more in contact with EFRA, having, let's say, a meeting a year with the people at EFRA, getting more in contact with FEMCA for more, and trying to get IFMAR actually functioning. Because, like, I checked yesterday, but I was trying to find out the dates for the 8-scale electric worlds, which were rumored to be next year. Like, everyone's like, it's going to be next year. Many brands have prepared for it. But where the fuck? No dates, no announcements, no nothing.
No decisions made yet. No decisions made yet.
And the thing about that was like at the EFRA AGM, there people said there was gonna be the world's in Europe for 8-scale electric off-road.
Okay.
Right now, no clue. Is it even happening? What the fuck's going on? And when you go to IFMAR's page, there's like a picture of an old rusty motor and then a text under it that's like motor regulations. Like, come on. Like, I was showing my girlfriend and she was like, what the fuck is this? You know? And that's like, I said, yeah, this is the highest federation of RC racing.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
It is definitely embarrassing.
But congratulations to Clayton Young. He has a lot on his plate. I think he takes over next week. I was talking to him yesterday. Lots to be done at Raw. Lots to be done, and he's got a lot to do. And he's gonna need good people on his side to help make that happen, and patience. And congratulations to that. So we're gonna go on to our Invisible Speed bench racing Q&A. Now we do have a lot of questions about silly season, people. I will read your question out, but we're gonna talk about silly season, so it doesn't make sense talking twice about it. So we will read your question out because I know people want to get their questions read out, but we probably just going to skip over this and go right to silly season because we have a lot of questions and we have to get through them. So first up, we're going to go for our Instagram questions. If you guys ain't checked out our Instagram, remember we lost it. We got a new one. We're almost at 1,300 followers. Help us get up to 2,000 or at least get us up to 1,500 here. Reese Cup. Why don't 8-scale cars, trucks use a chassis protector? Thanks. Love the podcast. I just think because they get destroyed too much.
Yeah, they don't last. Most 8-scale tracks aren't watered a lot. Like something like, I don't know where this racer's from, but like if you know Thunder Rally, you go there, the track's not watered.
Yeah, it's so abrasive.
Chassis
so abrasive.
So, and especially in Europe, the tracks are effectively the concrete a lot of times. So yeah, chassis is just too much.
I think also maybe you use so many screws underneath there too.
That is definitely an issue as well, but I'd say the chassis wear is the biggest.
Yeah, it would be too wear. I mean, we factor in chassis wear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. Paint by Jen. Is everything getting diluted with so many different classes, vehicles? Would it be better to keep it simpler? I'm not just talking about 1/8 buggies here, but the whole hobby. Too much choice for the newcomer, giving no direction into actual racing.
100% yes. 100%.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's definitely, I think it's people get tempted to run too many classes too fast.
Yeah. So I've given some of my thoughts on this before. This is a subject that could award itself another podcast.
Keep it short, Max.
Maybe I do. This year I'll do like 10
video about it?
Patreon only podcast that about me ranting about the RC world and how I'm gonna fix it.
Oh my gosh, the arrogant one has spoken.
No.
But definitely need some.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Basically, in my mind, the way to fix it is to pick the classes that have the most prestige, have the most interest, that are the most interesting, and have the most people in them already. Pick those classes, put your effort into those, and then the rest of the classes keep them as a hobby, not as a professional whatever. Because when you have like even on the racer payout program, you could run 5 classes at one race. Just too much. It's just too much, So having, let's say, 2 classes per big race, I think that would be a great start already. I do think Truggy is a nice class for hobbyists, but I don't think it should be a professional class. I don't mind
bad habits.
Yeah, I don't mind having a lot of classes, but have them at lower level, like have them as a hobby class. Like if you look at full scale racing, there's lots of different classes, like classic cars, historic cars, things like that. You don't race world championship for historic class, So that's what I think.
Okay, I would have to agree with you. Let's move on. Hyper Fox 2.1. This guy's so savage. And why do people give a shit what Ogden does? He hasn't done shit in years. He must be talking about his recent move. We'll talk about Ogden's move to TZO. And he also asked, what the fuck happened to the GOAT? Did Techno drop T-Bone Jones for RM big paycheck? We'll talk about that shortly. Your dad, Henry Mort, 18, asked, when will we see a Mayako Truggy and 8-scale electric buggy?
8-scale electric buggy prototypes, we have had them since DNC last year. Currently, we do have very early stage prototypes of the Truggy and e-Truggy as well. Release of that won't be in 2023 officially, but for members, there will be at least a chance to get some sort of prototype Truggy this year. But official release might go to 2024 for Truggy.
Okay.
E-Buggy release will be this year, official release. I think Joseph has mentioned, but currently the release will be if there is a Worlds at the Worlds.
After the Worlds, yeah. All right, and my boy Jason Bukal wants to know, where of Art Imprint, where is T-Bow going? We have the answer to that in this podcast. Well, by the time this podcast is released, the answer will be out. All right. Chasen Elric of our Facebook questions. How do you never have to pee in your show? I do actually. We just stop and I go. Probably gonna have to pee on this show. Josh Payne, the Savage Australian. Is it worth having a paid pro driver? We're gonna answer this real quick, Max. Is this still worth it? Yes or no?
Yes and no. So if you're David Ronnefolk, it's worth it. If you
he has made an effective change. He has made an effective impact on sales, and so has Robert Battier, by the way.
Yeah. If you're Robert Battier, David Ronnefolk, drivers who are more than just, they won that race, you know? Yes. Then if you are, I don't want to give names out because I don't want to badmouth people, but if you are a driver
like Cavallari, let's be honest. Cavallari is a good example of it.
Like Cavallari 5 years ago, he was worth it because he was actually winning almost every race, or at least up there. But right now, having Cavallari, at least the way he was last year at TLR, is not worth it. He doesn't have a huge social media presence. He doesn't have a huge name brand in following. He has a name brand in success, but not as in, I'll do what he does,
Right.
So, and also he didn't get the results. So having Cavallari as he was last year, that definitely is not worth it for someone like TLR, and they clearly realized that, and now he's out.
Okay, all right. I would agree. I actually agree with you on that. I think because I watch Robert, and I know how things are operating. He has to work, and I watched him working.
Yeah.
And
the thing is, the time of being a pro driver and not actually doing work on top of just racing, it's just over.
Yes.
You can't be a pro, driver unless you're someone like Ongaro who fucking wins everything,
Well, he doesn't win everything, but I know what you mean. And he's going to have to, but he's growing his brand, he's doing his stuff. And Cavallari did none of that. At least Ryan Mayfield has J Concepts looking after him and doing all the social media and building his RM2 brand and all that stuff.
But to be honest, fully honest, Ongaro really doesn't have a brand outside of Italy, perhaps Central Europe. So I would say Ongaro's value to Associated, and that is mostly he's him winning races. Obviously,
winning 2 world championships.
Yeah.
That would do it.
I'm not saying he's not worth it for Associated. He definitely is. What I'm saying is his value is the fact that he gets those really, really good results.
Well, the proof's in the pudding what people like Ronnefolk has done and whatnot. So he took a brand on his back and he built it up. So yes, I still think pros are worth it if they're willing to put in the effort to be professional. Next question for you, Max, is from Damian Mosey. He wants to know, question for Max on driving style. What is the benefit of blipping the throttle around corners versus applying the throttle smoothly? Come on, Max, you got to give quick answers for these ones. Blipping, which I hate, or smooth?
So basically the thing is, most RC cars are tuned in a way that you don't have natural rotation in the car. so that you can have, you know, enough grip on high speed and bumpy and whatever. And you can car feels easy to drive. So what you do is you blip the throttle. So you upset the grip of the car to get the rear end sliding slightly, get enough rotation, and then you get out of the corner. Feathering the throttle is similar way, but that's basically just like trying to find the grip going out. Like you can go earlier on the throttle and then like consistently increase it and find the grip. Instead of when you go on the throttle smoothly, if it doesn't work out and you lose grip, there's a bigger chance of you losing the car completely because you have to react quite quickly. Overall, it's better always to have a smooth acceleration, smooth brakings. But if your car is set up wrong, if you're not that good of a driver, it might be better to, you know, feather it or blip it, or, you know, make the car do stuff that it's not optimal, but it makes you go easier around the track for some people at least. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I said I definitely do my fair share of throttle blipping, and I hate it. Next question from Dallas Hoover. How do you choose which tire pattern to use on different surfaces? So, for example, when you use a small pin spaced out like a hole shot, or a small pin closed together like a slide lock. Thanks and love the podcast.
Okay, so 2-minute explanations on how tires work. So basically, the higher the pin, the more bend of the pin. This is especially useful when the track surface is like soft, you know, when it has quite a bit of dust and it's soft. When it's really hard, you have the car moving around. It's uncomfortable to drive. When you have a big pin, it's better on rough conditions, produces more grip on rough conditions because it has less bending. If you have a tall and big pin, you obviously have, you know, it digs up into the dirt and you have a lot of grip. Then small pin is when the dirt or the dust on the track is very, very fine. So you have dust on the track and the track surface is soft, but you have a very fine pin that sort of, you know, twists or bends and cuts into the surface of the track. Then really close together pins are really good for abrasive surfaces that don't have a lot of dust. So effectively, what I'm saying is the spacing between the pins, less spacing, less space for the dust to go, more spacing, more space for the dust to go, less spacing, bigger pins, longer or less tire wear, and more spacing, smaller pins, more tire wear. And effectively, on abrasive surfaces that have a lot of dust, you have medium-sized pin with quite big spacing. Then, you know, something like, you know, enduro, I don't know, people still use that, but like big pin that has quite a bit of spacing. Then on tracks that are really, really like something like DNC, where it's soft, it's a bit dusty, but it's like moist. Then you have a really small pin. So the pin still folds, but it goes around the small dust particles. And then when it's like the world swath, where there is almost no dust whatsoever, so you're relying mostly on the compound to work, you have a thread pattern. So this provides you with just enough of, you know, crooks and nooks and, you know, places for the dust to escape, but also provides the maximum surface area of the tire. On dusty or dirt, like condition where there's a lot of dirt, you don't really need that because you're not going to have that advantage of like surface area. But when you have a clear blue groove line, you effectively want to have the maximum surface area relative to the amount of, you know, dust particles. You know, so That's the best I can do for 2 minutes. If I had 5 more minutes, I'd probably get
you meant 5 minutes, by the way. You ready to go 5 minutes, but I agree with your explanation.
Yeah.
We have a lot of questions to get through. John Moore, when is Barry Baker coming back on? I don't know. When you piss him off again. Right now, you got 2 guys that dislike you: Jeff Keaton and Barry Baker.
Jeff dislike me?
Jeff's always disliked you, but now he's looking for some comments on his Facebook. We should have you and JQ versus Keaton and Baker. I don't know how I'd moderate that.
Yeah, I don't know.
That would be hard.
I would like to have discussing what's great about RC with Baker podcast, because Barry Baker he knows deep in his heart that I'm right, and he knows deep in his heart that we agree on most things, because he's a smart guy, I can see it. But he just has, he wants to be, not agreeing with us because we are on the opposite side.
Keaton ripped you a new one on Corey Jordan's podcast.
What did he say?
Oh, you got to go listen to it. I mean, he brought up some good points about some of the companies and drivers, which I appreciate. But Keaton, he definitely has something for you.
Yeah,
but,
I'm supposed to do a podcast with Corey, but Christmas and all the shit I had to do kind of fucked us up. So maybe we were supposed to do a podcast shortly. So maybe you'll see me on there.
Yeah, shout out to my boy EKG 24,000. All right, Benjamin James asks, who is going to win Mod at Clash of Champions, which is a big 10 scale race that's happening at. Who's the Hobbyplex this weekend? Mod will have coverage. I'm geeking out over this. I'm going to fan. Simple. I'm going to go to fan. Mod.
I don't think for 10 scale in America, you just always pick fan at this point.
Pretty much.
Who else?
But it's going to be a lot of 10 scale on the podcast. And we're actually going to have a
talking about 10 scale. Is Mayfield quitting 10 scale? Is he
someone mentioned this to me today, but I don't see that happening. Don't see it happening. We'll talk about that in silly season.
Is he going to this race?
No, he's not. But Ty is.
Yeah, well, Ty goes to races when he can get out of Canada.
Dallas Hoover. Another question from Dallas. He races mainly 10 scale carpet. What 8 scale car drives more like a 10 scale car, a Ball Cup car, or a C-Hub car? And what diff fluid weights would you recommend to make the car handle more like a 10 scale car? Thanks, love the podcast, Max. 2 minutes or less.
Well, the thing is, TLR is probably the most 10 scale 8 scale buggy. The issue with that is, due to the fact that our tires are very different, if you want 8 scale buggy to handle well, it doesn't handle like a 10 scale buggy. Wider, shorter car relatively, and more weight relative to the tire, surface area. So, and also bigger tires in diameter. So effectively for 8 scale, you don't really have a way to getting a 10 scale type car, but TLR is probably the closest. But TLR is a very aggressive, hard to drive car. I'd say pivot ball cars are definitely not the way to go if you want to feel like 10 scaler. So C-Hub car. Obviously I'm going to suggest Mayako because it's more tunable. But HP, TLR, and Mayako probably your best bets.
Heavy diff fluids?
Oh yeah, forgot about that. Depends on the car. Like if you buy a Mayako, like something like 15-10-10 or 15-10-5. If you buy a TLR, actually not sure about TLR. I have to say I don't know what diffs they use, but for HB probably something like 7-5-3, something like that.
Okay, good stuff.
And this is because different size gears inside the diffs.
Right, and different size diff cups as well.
Yeah, there's a proper reason for it, which I'm not going to go into. If you want to know why, go to my channel, check out the video called Differentials Part 2. So type into YouTube Max Mort RC and check out the video called Differentials Part 2. That was a really shameless plug, but yeah. It
was great. It was awesome. Yeah. Magnus Bergland, who's freezing his balls off in Sweden. all changes in chassis makers, all the changes in the chassis makers, does it mean that no one really cares about what chassis they're going to run, or they just go after as little money there is? Is there a chassis that's above the rest? I think it's a little bit of both. I think they go after money. In some cases, it's just money for some guys.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I think they go after chassis that they like. But then, I mean, sometimes they go to chassis that they like the most and has the most money as well.
Yeah.
So it's a little mix of everything.
I already gave my answer, but the thing is, when I answer questions quickly, now everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, Max is so arrogant." No, I'm just answering your questions quickly.
So what was your answer?
Yes to everyone. You know, there is a better car than others. Mayako. And,
oh my God! Are you just like really shamelessly like they're gonna be like, this is the Mayako podcast.
No,
all right,
but I mean seriously. I mean the thing is, if I had 30 minutes to answer every question, I could have really good answers to.
We'd have a 10-hour podcast.
We would have 10-hour podcast, but like I would just tell why. But now I don't have the time. So blame Keenan for me being arrogant. Okay,
there we go. Benjamin James, what do you think about an 8-scale nitro race going to a 2-metal format for the A main? Think double 20, 30-minute races instead of a single 45, 60-minute main. I'm all for it at some races, no problem.
Yeah,
I still like my long mains, but I still like double mains. We can have them.
Yeah, I think it's good choice for some races, but definitely not all races. I do prefer the long mains, but definitely some races could use it.
Okay. Zach Ryan down in Australia pissed off at Femke because they just announced he was complaining about the organizations down there. They've announced the Femke race. It's in I think in wherever Scott Yang is, so that's Taiwan, I think, or Thailand, whatever. So that's in March, and tickets are like $2,300 Australian. He wants to know how many kits does a company need to sell to pay for a pro, and then Adrian Bartine chimes in, depends the price of the pro. I don't know. It depends on these guys' salaries, but that's a lot of kits they got to sell.
Yeah, but the thing is, it really depends on the price of the pro. If you're hiring a Mayfield, Ronafall, this type of level driver, it's going to be hundreds of kits easily. If you're signing
thousands, I would say.
No, not that much, but like it's going to be quite a lot of kits,
like 1,000 plus.
Yeah, but if you're signing a driver, like, you know, I don't know, a guy who gets by, you know, that type of driver, they don't have to sell that many. It's like, I mean, it's still hundreds, but probably less than half of that those top guys.
I don't know the exact numbers, to be honest.
Tommy Long, like, it's definitely like we're talking like 1,500 at least for.
Yeah, because I think people have to understand that also that a lot of the salary, yes, is not all of these chassis companies are paying big salaries, and some salaries have to be paid, but a lot of the contingency, a lot of the other salaries come in, like, you know, travel and all that stuff is split between other races too.
It's pretty much like for most of these guys, it's like 50% for salary, and then the last 50% for contingency.
Travel split between a lot of the other companies. All right. Oh, sorry, my mic's falling. Tommy Long wants to know what happened to sportsmanship. There's always a group that holds up the program at big races should they get penalized. If it's through tire marshalling, then we've had this discussion many times too. Just. Man, I can't count how many times I go to races and RDs have to call out for tire marshals. It's just it's bad race etiquette. That's, you know, just bad race etiquette. You don't see it.
Yeah,
it's a big problem in American racing. I'm going to tell you. So
yeah, it's a cultural thing.
All right, Joe Zaire Jr., how much should I charge my OnlyFans to support my racing this summer, and how much should I do I have to show? Well, you're racing 5th scales. So you got to make a lot of money. You're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to get shaved up and go full balls out, Savage Joe.
Yeah. So my suggestion for you is to make more personalized content. That way, you get much more money. So make content so that you have a basic subscription that is pretty cheap, so people get to know about you, and then you make very personalized content, like let's say a very special type of video or something, and then people can pay extra for that, kind of like tipping. So that's the best way to make money on OnlyFans.
Oh my God. Joe Zaire, the host of Ran Out of Talent. He's going to raise 5th scale. Peter Bartel, my good friend down there in South Carolina. Why do 4-wheel drive buggies tend to have a heavier sway bar in the rear than in front? He said this is the opposite of two-wheel drive buggies, on the road RC, and full scale RC cars. Full scale cars.
Yeah, biggest thing is our cars are more often than not rear heavy. And also the tires in the rear are much bigger, whereas full-scale cars usually have the same or at least similar size tires front and rear. And I guess he said I guess he compared to touring cars. Those are quite front heavy. So those are the biggest things. So rear heavy cars and bigger tires in the rear. And for 8 scale off-road, it's mostly because it's a bit rear heavy, but yeah, I don't really have a one way of explaining it, but usually it's due to leverage and offset differences and stuff like that.
All right, cool. Thanks for the question there, Peter. Sorry, we have breaking news going on while I'm doing this. Cavallari to Raw Speed. I think we have some breaking news coming up here shortly about Tebow as well. So when that breaks, we'll know, or we'll just break it here because nobody's going to see this till tomorrow. Yeah. But Cav to Raw Speed. That's probably the only place he had left to go. That was a bad comment, but that's very true. Yeah. I'm looking for one question. I can't find it. I had it there, but I can't find the rest of it. Was from my buddy Austin Schaefer. It's more about silly season. Let me go through her. Do we have any more questions? Brett Ryan, any differences between quality and brands of diff and shock oil? Do you know anything, Max?
Yeah. So the Japanese oils have usually been the best, like Mugen Kyosho oils. But those are expensive as fuck, so not many people use them. Like TLR oils have been pretty good for the shocks, but I'm not a huge fan of the weight scale. I don't know what you call it, but CST is much better measurement of the shocks. Most of the oils are quite similar, like Ultimate, TLR, AE. Those are the oils I have used for a while, and I haven't had any issues with those. Definitely for diffs, I do find XTR is a good oil too. Definitely haven't had that much issues with that. For diffs, I've used Mugen oils for a bit. I do find they are a slight bit better for the diffs. I don't know if you're on mute, but I can't hear you.
All right, sorry. Because I'm looking at the questions, I'm picking through the questions. I'm listening to you, but I'm doing that. I put myself on mute. Billy Card asks why people assume Cav is done because he signed to WRC. We'll talk about that. Justin Hugley wants to know when the next big trip I have planned. We'd love to get you to our Cheyenne Showdown, spend some time in the Wild West. I'd love to get to races too. We got to figure out how we can get me there. Charlie Mack wants JQ's take on Horizon Hobby RPP. He's all about it. That started a whole debate after that. Coach Jeff Warner, will he talk about who wins silly season often? Which company do you think is not having a good silly season? Took more or less than gains? I don't know. We'll do that up. We'll do a final. We'll figure that out. Remember that question. Devin Bera, who's your favorite to win the 2023 Worlds being on U.S. soil?
Well, I have this on the notes later on. So I think we'll discuss this later on too.
Okay. Chris Trudeau with the silly season. Jay Zauner, is Max going to race more this year, and what races is he planning? Short answer.
Euros next year, racing in Finland. I do plan on racing more, but I have not yet confirmed like what type of calendar I'll have. But probably more.
You got school too.
Yeah, I got school. I'm probably gonna have some work, so I'm gonna probably focus a bit on social media, and I will be racing next year abroad. Like I was supposed to race this year or last year, but got sick before the Euros, got sick before the World. So what can you do?
Yeah. Chris Trudeau. So for 2023, what SillySeason changes? Who's looking like the dream team among the manufacturers? We'll talk about that. We talked our Discord questions. We talked about the rotating back plate that was asked about, and I think that's all our questions for this week. Like I said, a lot of them were silly. Yeah, and a lot of them we skipped because they're SillySeason questions. So thank you everybody for the questions. It's been some time since we've done that, but we appreciate it. And remember, this is now the Invisible Speed Bench Racing Q&A. Check out invisiblespeed.net for the book and all the online courses, and make your speed visible. All right, Max, now it's time to talk about our favorite time of the year, the silly season. It seems like every year people get more excited about this. I can't count how many messages people have been messaging me about this. I don't know who got this silly season all hyped up, but that person did a pretty good job of it. But silly season is booming. It seemed it was a quiet silly season. We have talked about moves. We have talked about the moves like Badiego, and he was one of the first ones. Then obviously the move with Mayfield to Techno. We will touch on those briefly as we talk about this, but lots of moves made over her in the Christmas break, and while we was away from recording, lots of moves, chassis moves, tire moves. There's lots of moves that haven't even finished, and they're still out there. Like they're breaking every day, sometimes 3-4 moves a day. So if we miss something, it's because it's just so much going on. We're going to try and get through these as fast as possible and not spend too much time on them. So we're going to start with chassis. And first off, we're going to start out with Mugen and the notes here. So we have the big names out, Mayfield and Badier. No surprises there with Badier being out. Mayfield, not a surprise because I knew this was happening because of talks.
Yeah, I do think like it is a bit of a surprise, like considering how well it went, but like knowing the behind the scenes, it's not a surprise,
Yeah. They have in now the Killick brothers and Drake. I think Drake has I've said this before, and I actually listened to Jeff Keaton, and I agree with him too on this. He said he thinks Mugen has 2 years where they don't need a top American driver that wins races, that they can still win on, they can still do well on namesake. With Drake, I think that's possible. I think in Europe, the Killick brothers are sufficient, and I think like Jamie, the Clancy, and in the UK, they do well, and the other Mugen drivers around that Spain will suffer because they don't have a Mugen driver now, and Robert was big for them.
The Spanish-speaking world on its own was a big thing for Mugen, and now it's just gone. Like I don't think it will be a thing. Mugen will have and has had kind of the similar way of like everyone who didn't know anything and just bought a Kyosho, like that kind of thing. Like people who didn't have like a thing for a like particular brand, they bought a Kyosho before. Now in my mind, it has switched a bit to Mugen,
Yes, but they've gotten really expensive.
That is an issue,
and that's a big issue with people. And now they had Mayfield, who won, and Robert, who had Legacy, who won the last Worlds up to now. Drake is still a very popular brand ambassador, and I think he will carry that flag. This isn't unusual. Mugen has done this before. They brought up young Frankie Contreras Jr. from TLR, SoCal Fast Racer. I think it's 15, 16 maybe now. I think he kind of burst out into the scene 2020, won DNC at which was held at Thunder Alley, and he won all 3 intermediate classes. I believe he made the main at this DNC last year.
2020.
He's very good in SoCal. Very good in SoCal. he needs to get out and go race at some of these other races, race time events. I hope this happens with Mugen. Not sure what his deal is. I personally don't think he should be getting paid. He's still young. I don't think he's at that level yet. He has to go out there and earn it, but maybe he gets a little bit of travel. Let's see if him being on the Drake's wing helps him. This is what a lot of people say. You remember, always heard that Drake was a big part of Mayfield's program. Let's see. Mugen has done this before. They've had I can see your girlfriend saying something to you. Yeah. Did she get me some tea as well? Mugen has had a history of doing this. They've had semi-pros with one pro at sometimes. We go back to names like Chad Bradley. Well, he was a pro driver for him. I think Jason Ashton was. Then they went through a few years where they had guys like Bobby Tillman, Drew Moeller is his name. Drew Moeller was with them. You know, they've had fast young guys. Rodriguez was another one.
Denny was there. Tanner Denny.
Yeah, Tanner Denny. Cole Ogden was there with him for the longest while. He was at Mugen for the longest while. Or I think, did he leave TLR to go to Mugen? I can't remember. So they've done this before. I think in the big scheme of things, best moves for Mugen. I mean, in the sense of now they don't have to pay Mayfield salary and Battier's salary. I do think maybe Burak is going to go full-time somewhat, like full-time if a full-time job, RC racer, talking to Barkan the other day. So I expect him to get some salary. Obviously, they have to pay Drake. I mean, right now, they got away with paying, I think, contingency and travel to some of these guys. And even with Barkan's school schedule, I'm sure with Frankie, he's still going to travel to every race. I think Mugen for the next couple years are okay. But
they definitely
at some point, they will have to win some races.
Yeah, they definitely downscaled over they won't have that same, Mugen feel to it. It's like, oh, yeah, this guy with a Mugen, like Kilich, or,
right. Well, they won't have that.
Like, they will have that guy, but they won't have that, team feel. I don't think anymore.
I think they just won't have that guy who can win. Yes. Okay. When we go to DNC, they're not going to have Mayfield there who can win the race. And I'm sorry. I like Frankie Contreras Jr., but I don't think he can win. I mean, anything can happen. I don't think he can win DNC. Yeah. Not this early out. And I don't think Burak and Barkan come in. And I wouldn't even consider them to win anyway. So I think that move is going to hurt. Is going to hurt them a bit. I don't know if Mayfield takes a lot of people to techno with him. I think Drake still has a stronghold on that. No, so I don't think they lose out too much there.
I don't think Mayfield is the type of driver who moves people across brands just by switching brands. But the fact that if he wins every race, that will eventually get people over, like Ronafog is the type of driver who gets people to move just because he moves, But I don't see Mayfield having that. I think it will happen over the years. Like people will choose techno when they could have chosen Mugen when Mayfield was there, if he still continues to win races. But yeah, I think, I think now we can move into like speculating techno, right?
Yeah, let's talk about techno. So
that's effectively what happened. Like Mugen's biggest star to techno.
He goes to techno. They get rid of Tebow in the meantime to make this happen because I believe that Mayfield demanded a good, healthy paycheck. And
for sure.
You know what? That man wins races, and he probably has earned that. So they got a hired gun who has a proven record of winning. He's not on a downward spiral. He's not, this is Techno's best chance to win a nationals, a DNC. They've had in a long time. I'm not saying that the previous drivers couldn't do it, but this is Mariah Mayfield. He's the best in the world at this point. One of the best at the top 3 best in the world. Probably, I think number 1 or 2, or tied for number 1 in America right now.
Yeah, I'd say I'd put it in a way where Techno has never had a driver that is proven, top 3 of the world, or let's say top 5 to not get people angry. Proven top 5 driver in the world that is in his prime, results wise, because they had lots. He had those insane runs like 2014 Worlds, 2012 Worlds, and 2014 Roar Nats, and like good races, individual races here and there. Like a driver who could like do really well. And then he signed to Techno, and then they had like Bornhorst, who were like a bit of an up and coming driver. But all of their drivers are either being sort of those guys who might make it to like really good, might not make it to really good, or then like Thibaut, who was kind of struggling a bit, and then he switched to Techno. But now they get this is sort of a no excuse situation, like the guy who's in his prime switches, and if he does good. If he doesn't, then it kind of like proves that Techno, it's hard to say this, but it kind of proves that it might not have been the drivers. It might have been, Techno that has not why they won't get the success, So this is in my opinion, this is a bit of a risk move to Techno.
I think that, I think with the money that is being paid to Mayfield, I think the amount of wins that he's had with the Mugen, there's a lot of pressure for instant success. Success.
Sure. Yes.
So, like, do you feel if he doesn't go to DNC and doesn't, okay, so I'm going to say this. If he doesn't sweep, okay, he doesn't have to sweep. If he doesn't win Nitro Buggy he can win, okay, let's say he wins E-Buggy and Truggy, but doesn't win Nitro Buggy. Do you consider this a success?
Yeah, for sure. The thing is that this is what's been
eluding Techno, though, is that elusive Nitro Buggy win at one of these races. This is what they want to win.
It is, but it's not that big of a deal, Okay. Here's my thought process on this. So, effectively, Techno has always been for the last 7 years at least. They always had good top 10 drivers in Europe and in America. Sanketin in Europe, then they had like Bornhorst Lutz, and then they had like these up and comers, which ended up being at the similar level of like what Bornhorst has been his whole time. So, like right now, it used to be Bornhorst Lutz, Sanketin, and then it was like Thibaut, Van Dalen, Jones.
Yes.
Bornhorst. And then they didn't have anyone in Europe for a while. But right now, I think they have the best team they could have ever imagined. Mayfield, a known guy to drive well no matter the car. Like, you've never seen him not be quick. Like TLR, when he was at TLR, he was still one of the fastest guys. When he was at AE, that really, really outdated 8-scale buggy, he's still fast, fighting for nationals and even the worlds. And then when going to Mugen, having a really good buggy, he dominated. So he's a guy who can run well with any buggy. Baruffolo started out with TLR, went to RB, then went to X-Ray. He has something between that. Can't remember what he went between that, but he's never been like on a Mugen or a Kyosho or some like chassis that has been like, oh, this is the best chassis, like universally agreed that this is a good chassis and stuff like that. He was at X-Ray, which was a good car, definitely. But he has proven that even on Techno, that some might say is like, even I would argue it's not as good as an X-Ray, but he has still proven that he can find a way to find good results. His results hasn't gotten any worse, in my opinion.
Okay.
So now they have two drivers, one in Europe, one in America, who are one of the fastest in the world and can definitely win big races. They still have Van Dalen, who has promise. They still have Wiggins, who has surprisingly been one of the top guys. That was a nice one. That was a nice sort of a expose of what we're going to talk about next. But yeah, right now they have two sort of drivers you don't really have to pay a salary that are still good, and two really, really fast drivers that can get you that, at the best case, Roar National Championships or a European Championship win,
Okay.
So they are at the best situation they've ever been, in my opinion. But it also is a bit risky. But it's a two-edged sword, kind of.
Most definitely, because if he isn't instantly fast, it's just going. The internet's just going to go crazy. It's kind of like the same thing if. Okay, so when we compare what Ronald did with the Mayako, but it was a completely new chassis. Like everything had to be learned. That level of driver driving that car. The Techno has had many levels of drivers driving the car. I still think Ryan Mayfield's the fastest guy. I think he's going to have a lot to prove. And I think Techno has a lot to prove, and they are probably wanting nothing but victory. I would say that for them, success would be either winning all three or winning Nitro Buggy. They've won E-Buggy and Truggy a few times, I believe. But I think Mayfield's just going to get it done. Now, what happens with Mayfield's 10th scale future, we're not sure. That's a big question mark at this moment.
I don't know. I heard he got offered a deal by Schumacher, but he didn't accept.
Right.
And what I've heard from Techno is that they are not coming out with a tool drive. But we'll talk about that in the 10 scale segment. I have to say that if I was, involved in Techno, some way, I'd be like, okay, now is the time to make this brand, step out as we are one of the, because they have done really well marketing wise. They do well, they have a brand, a known brand, and they do good with that. But now is the time where they can become sort of associated of the, well, not associated because they have such a long history, but they can become like one of the, brands that are going to be there, are going to stay there as one of the top brands, and become, TLR associated level of the American brand history.
So it looks like his teammates are going to be Marco Barufalo, who he wanted to throat punch a few years ago. That's going to be interesting.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
That's going to be interesting to see how that works.
I don't think they're going to have much discussions. Mayfield works on his own. Barufalo works on his own. Barufalo is not even that good in English. So, I don't think
he's very good in English, though. He is very good in English. Yes. And then it looks like Seth Van Dalen staying on. Obviously, Tyler Hook's left. I wonder if this is going to be a recession for Hook's back to Techno now. I don't know. With the
I don't know why. I think Hook's moving out of Techno was a bit, too soon, he should have just held it for another year because he knew Mayfield wasn't going to stay at me. He definitely must have known. So I don't know.
Something.
Yeah. So,
maybe he was sent over there to convince him to go to Techno.
I don't know.
Maybe that was what it was all about.
To me, if Hook came back to Techno, that would be like there would be no more excuses left because he, say what you want about Tyler Hooks, he knows how to market a brand, how to make yourself at least see, So I think having Mayfield, and the thing is Van Dalen and Wiggins are all under J Concepts now. So this J Concepts Techno link is strong.
It's there. It's gonna be like the Mugen J Concepts link when Drake came over.
Exactly.
And
I think this. I mean, I kind of hope that Hooks moves back to the Techno camp, for everyone's sake, because I think. I do want Techno to do well, even though people might not believe that of me and JQ, but I don't know JQ. I don't think JQ wants Techno to do well, but I do want to see them succeed because I do think they have something unique, even though I don't agree with their design philosophy per se, but I do think they have something worth to see.
Well, they want to win, and they went out and got. I think the only other person that they could have signed that probably would do this would be Fend in America.
Yeah,
and they went out and got. They went out and got one of the biggest guns that are out there. But definitely, they go into DNC with lots of.
I think this was the best move Techno could have made.
I think you have this down as the biggest move of silly season too.
I have this down as the biggest move, and I have this down as the best move for all parties included.
Okay.
Paycheck, Techno couldn't have gotten a better driver. If they went all around the world, like even Ronafog to Techno would be the worst move than this, in my opinion.
Right. I don't think it would have fit.
Yeah.
Do you think Mayfield wins the NC Nitro Buggy? Yeah, I think we cannot. I think he's there.
I would be surprised if he's not in the top 3. I'd say that much.
Okay.
I'm not going to say he's going to win, because I do think this year's DNC is going to be really tight for the win. But I would be surprised to see Mayfield not be in the top 3, or at least not fighting for the win.
Okay. Well, let's move on. Congratulations to Ryan Mayfield and Techno. We look forward to what they're going to do. We got SIC coming up next weekend, so we'll be following that. The move that has created, so if you would have told me back in 2018 that when I was working for JQ Racing, which isn't anymore, and let's just basically say like what would have, if Mayako wouldn't have bought out JQ and all that stuff, what would have been, like if you would have told me 2018 that JQ would be signing, or JQ would be involved in signing not just Ronafog, but signing Robert, who's been absolutely great for Mayako. I watched him working already, but now to sign another top pro, and then this pro of all of them, who was a bit of a shock when I remember when JQ sent me the message and asked me about this. And it was I've known about this for a few months, but it's been kind of like, iffy. I haven't really been bothered too much. And obviously on the South American tour, I was privy to mostly everything because I was there all the time. So I knew what was going on. But as we release this podcast, as we're doing this hasn't been released to the public yet. But it is probably the most hyped move of silly season, and that is, boom, there we go, Mr. Jared Tebow to Techno. I messed that up. Jared Tebow.
You want to do it again?
No, Jared Tebow. No, I like keep that. That's a perfect lefty bumble. Jared Tebow to Mayako. So this was what everybody speculated. It was fun. Look, I'm not gonna lie. I knew he's been at Mayako for quite some time, but I couldn't say anything. I was sworn to secrecy by Robert and JQ and all this type of stuff. And literally, before I came to record on this, like JQ's like, "Oh, I'll send you the press release," and I just got this. We hadn't got the video. I know JQ's making a video for him, or has made a video for him. But hey, man, Jared Tebow to Mayako for 2023. He also made some changes in his engine program to Ultimate, and as well as hot race tires. I've seen him drive the car. I'm so far ahead. Look, dude, I had spy footage of Tebow practicing at Hobbyplex on the day after that JQ and Robert didn't have. How you like that? I had that, and I showed them that. I was like, look at Tebow in the car, and he looked good. He likes the car. I believe he's going to SIC next weekend. Yeah. He wants to go to that race. He's super eager. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I think this was. I think people will be surprised, but a lot of people think that he's already at Mayako, so a lot of people won't be surprised by it. But it was funny watching the Discord and watching different comments, like, "Oh, he's to AE." I've got proven source that he's going to AE, and then like I know like the NPC members in Mayako know that it's her because they got introduced to him last week, I believe. So it's funny to see all of that. I like that Tebow played into it as well, and then then it was funny. Like in the Discord, people would say, "Look, there's a clue in her," and then I would play that, and I really enjoyed playing that this year. I'm sorry, guys, I couldn't talk about this because I was held at secrecy, and I had to. It was totally off the record. But Tebow to Mayako, he's also going to be the community. Let's see, let me find that. Where did it go? The community
manager. Yeah,
community manager.
Yeah. So the thing. that I'm like the most impressed by is like a year ago, well, a bit over a year ago, like we were wondering if Mayako is going to have a pro or like a top pro, world champion level pro. And now Mayako has 3, Ronafalk, Battier, and Thibaut. So that to me is kind of crazy to imagine.
Joseph was really excited about this too. He took him a few days to believe that this was happening. Maybe he is in South America. It's like, wow, I can't believe that Thibaut is going to be driving a Mayako. I can't believe it.
Yeah,
like,
I do think though Mayako was or is the perfect home for, especially like for Ronafalk, first of all, because he wants to make a difference. He wants to do things his way, not like to be just a driver for a brand, but to be someone who represents a brand more than that. And for Robert and Thibaut, who have built themselves a brand
exactly.
already. Thibaut as a JTP and Robert as one of the biggest faces of the Spanish-speaking world in RC. So those two things, fit perfectly to the Mayako, brand, because Mayako is about a community. It's about, having that, that they're guys. It's a thing people build up together. And I think this is the perfect move for all the parties included, Mayako, Thibaut, Battier, Mayako, So I don't know. I already talked to Jared and he's super pumped. And
yeah, I talked to him the other day. He really likes the Discord. He was like, I never knew this existed. And I was like, I was like, I said, I felt the same way when I first kind of got in it and discovered it. And it's like, it's such a good tool. And so he, like Robert, he has to work. So he's going to be dealing with customers and doing all this type of stuff. And he's going to be, I believe he's going to be like a distributor or service center through JTP. Right. And then what he's done, he's also had a kind of an instant effect where I know he's going to bring people on because he has a following. And I don't think there's that much pressure on him to win instantly at this case because he wants to win. So I talked to him and he says, I can still win. My issue has always been, I have the pace. I just lack the consistency. He seems to really like this car already from the testing that he's done. I know he went on to Thornhill. I don't know how it went there. I haven't talked to him. He's super pumped from SIC. But what's happened is I was talking to his friends who I know, and they're like, dude, I've never seen him this excited. So I'm super happy to see this. I'm happy for Robert. Obviously talking to him while I was out there and his thoughts. And he's out there tirelessly working on the car and doing what he's going to do.
Yeah. So,
and then of course, Ronafalk. I think now Mayako went from not having a pro to probably one of the strongest 8-scale teams put together in a long time.
Yeah. And to me, the thing that to me makes this move for Robert and for Thibaut much better than any other move they had available, or could have even had available, is because when Thibaut was at Techno, he was sort of the guy who had to come up with his own setup. He didn't have, obviously there's Wiggins and people test a lot of stuff, but he didn't have someone to go off of. Now they have, Joseph, who has created the car, who really, really knows how cars work. I mean, obviously I'm at Mayako too, and there's like Ronafalk, lots of people who are really passionate about, product design and
Robert is too, to be honest.
And Robert as well. So, and for both of these drivers, Robert, like I can say, I don't know, Robert will get mad at me for saying this, but for a long time, he has definitely been struggling with the Mugen on certain conditions. And he has said that himself, that he has to find a way to set up the car differently. But at Mayako, he's given sort of a fresh start. And then he has someone to guide him, like Joseph, to guide him to a setup where he can succeed. So not only do I think this is sort of a good match, like visually or optically, but I do sincerely believe that this gives better opportunities to both of these drivers to also succeed in their personal racing.
Exactly. Not only their personal racing, but transition into that Because I still think that these guys still have, I would say Robert just went 35, Tebow's 35.
Yeah.
I say they have
still
5 more years left in them.
At least 5 years left
Yes.
where they can race at, peak level. Because
Yes.
there's no proof that an athlete, especially in motorsports where physical condition is not that big of a deal. There's no evidence that an athlete is too old at 35. 40, maybe, but 35, no way. So that's what I think, that now with the right sort of circumstances, these two sort of can have their last hurrah in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited to see that. And that's why I think for Mayako, these were big moves. I'd still say the Bayfield move was overall the biggest move and the best move of the silly season. But I think these two moves are the second. Mayako's silly season was pretty good. And I'm saying this as objectively as I can. Obviously, I'm part of Mayako and excited about this. But anyone, you can't be like, oh, this was a bad move for these parties. I just don't see that.
Yeah, I don't think, and people just need to understand the dynamics behind these deals. I kind of know the ins and outs. You do too. It's about transitioning to building their next life in RC as well.
Yeah.
So we talked about drivers that ain't doing this. Well, these are two great examples of drivers that are doing this.
Yeah.
And following suit, building their brands, building their shop to continue. Another racer who has actually done a good job of this has been Yannick Aigon and has been Renault Savoia. So I think, in my personal thoughts, I think talking to Tebow, he says, I can still win. He says, I can beat Ryan Mayfield. So he's confident about that. His friends are confident about that. So I say, well, let's see what happens this year. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be busy, focused on, he's like a hot race dealer as well. So he's going to be busy with that. So it's going to be busy, and him and his family are going to be busy. I'm happy to see it. I know people were like, well, how are him and Tebow going to get along? JQ, believe it or not, when it's time to shut up and do things, he can do it. He's probably going to have to ease up on his Christian jokes and stuff, but
but
he knows what he have to do. And
people don't really understand, even though Jared and Joseph disagree on some things very drastically, it's not like they are very different people. Both have a goal to be successful in RC. Both, have big work ethic. They're working towards that. And, it's not like these people are not going to get along, just because they disagree about some God. That's not something that adult people should get their panties in a twist. These are adults, and these I've never seen, what people assume that Tebow and Joseph hate each other. I just don't see that.
Well, I think it's just things that have been said over the years, but who hasn't said anything bad about JQ, and who JQ hasn't said anything bad about? So it's hard to say anything.
Yeah.
All right. I think great move for them. I look forward to seeing what Tebow does at SIC. I know a lot of the American guys are happy because I remember everybody saying that Mayako needs a top American pro. Well, here you go. Let's see what Teebs can do. We'll get him on the podcast maybe next week. We'll see if he's not too busy getting ready for SIC and talk about it. And we'll get JQ on to talk about it as well. All right. Congratulations. I'm pumped about that too, to be honest. I like Tebow. S-Works. Wow. I have to say this, Max. S-Works as a brand is definitely growing in America. It's I think Brent and Beach has a lot to do with that. Tim's been working very hard. This year, I see a lot more regional people joining S-Works. The rumor is that's where Brandon Rose is headed. But they made some moves in Europe as well. Mattia Polito. A lot of people may not know who Polito is, but he's a very fast young Italian driver. He did make the Euro finals in 2019. He was in the semis at this recent Worlds, I believe.
Yeah, he's one of the drivers that people don't really know about, but he's probably the fastest driver out of Italy after Barocco Ongaro and Berton. He's the guy who finishes on the podium almost every single national.
Yeah.
Like it's always like he rarely wins. I have to say that, but he's always there. Like he at least beats one of those top three in Italy.
Your thoughts on this move to S-Works? Just another, like S-Works teams ever increasingly growing.
No, but I think
he be the top he be the top guy in Italy now for them though. But he was the top Kyosho guy too.
Yeah, so
but definitely better than Kyosho, I would say at this point.
I'd say the thing is this, because from S-Works, Valente also moved out.
Mm-hmm.
I'd argue Valente's slightly worse than Polito, like if you look at international results.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, a good move for S-Works, because I think the deal is most likely very similar. So I don't say S-Works, grew or made big, strides this year. I think this was sort of a zero-sum, silly season for S-Works. They didn't grow, they didn't get smaller. I think the big.
You know what they did do? They grew regionally. They did good
exactly.
there.
Yes.
So
that's what I think. That was what I wanted to say about S-Works is they have sort of graduated from the phase of just getting new team drivers, getting their name out there, to now make it their ground in RC. They've established S-Works is here, it's gonna stay, and now they sort of are building the structure that how it's gonna stay. American distribution. If Brandon Rose, which is likely, signs, they have much more increasing American presence with Hackett, Bornhorst, Rose, Camden Lime to some extent. So they have like a good American presence. Then they have Boots, Canas, Polito.
Oh, and your Newman. He's now running the 10 scale stuff officially with them.
And
that's the other level. They are really pushing on the 10 scale side of things.
We'll talk about that in the 10 scale part of the podcast. But yeah, definitely S-Works is.
And
now
Kobovic.
They sort of, Kobovic was added to their 8 scale lineup as well. I don't think he's that big of a name, but he's definitely a bonus for.
On carpet, he's fast, dude.
Oh yeah, but Kovacic is still staying with Schumacher on 10 scale.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I don't know what he does in 8 scale. In
8 scale, he's never been as good as in 10 scale, but he's still fast, obviously. But I'd say it wasn't like a killer silly season for S-Works, but it was like S-Works should be happy because they already had a good team. Now
for example, they picked up young Joey Bardon from Techno. Good regional driver in the Southeast. Not sorry, Joey Bardon. Sorry, Joey. Sorry. David Olson. Sorry. Okay. I always, like, when I say young, I'm thinking of, but I know David is from South Carolina. He has been doing really well regionally in Southeast.
Yeah.
Good move for him. He's been running a lot of 10 scale stuff. That's where they picked up a lot of people in that type of level.
I think this silly season was sort of the proof that S-Works is now considered. Yeah, it's considered as one of the big brands, in people's heads. It's like before it was like, should I go to AETLR? Like if you're American, should I go to AETLR or should I choose the, lesser known brands? And then S-Works was in those lists. But these days it's like, S-Works is one of the big brands, I think, in America at this point, and definitely in Europe also.
I agree with you.
I do think S-Works, this season sort of proves that S-Works, has.
We also have Kyle McBride over in Australia, still running S-Works.
He's still staying for S-Works. So
Okay. I have there might be some changes in S-Works. We'll see. I don't know. I've heard some rumblings about one of their top drivers that might be leaving. And let's not forget, they have JCC, who's considered one of the top 5 8 scale races in the world. Good year for S-Works. I think if the rumors are true that Brandon Rose does go here, I think it's a good move for him. Mm-hmm. I think he's been wanting to be on a bigger team, and I think he's going to get what he wants with this. And let's see what he can do. It's that or HB, they keep saying. All right, let's move on. Congratulations to S-Works Team Associated. You say it's a silent, silly season, but really it's got a few things. Okay. I think the biggest thing for me was Cole Tallard out. at AE. He's moved on to TLR. In the stock rankings, another big move was, but he's more like factory tracks associated, was Calgo, who's a really fast stock racer, was factory tracks and associated for the longest while. That's like Alan Horn and where Aiden Horn comes from, like the privateer team. Going straight to TLR.
When we have to talk about stock racers, you've just proved my point that it was pretty silent SillySeason for us.
But I enjoy stock, so I'm geeking out on stock now.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So,
I think for sure stock is a big part of like marketing
just
the customer base, but like in terms of professional racing, silent.
But I'm just you putting that out there to say what they gained on that side. We'll talk about TLR in a bit. And then we have, so he's out. So Tallard, who's out, who I considered very good, but they have Tallard, they have Evans, they have Horn, and they have Rivkin. And those are all predominantly 10 scale drivers.
Yeah, to me, the issue was that, they already have Evans and Rivkin, who are like, they should be the top 10 scale guys. And then they have Horn and Tallard.
Horn's better than Rivkin, then Evans. He's doing better than Evans.
Okay, yeah.
But Evans just went to JC. I think that's gonna boost his career a little bit more.
Yeah. But anyway, like they already have 4 guys that should be making all of the AMAs and winning and podiuming these races. So that's too much, in my opinion, these days in 10 scale.
Right. So Tallard out, but I think Aiden's still 10 scale. He can be fast in 8 scale. But I still think like AE is missing that. Okay, they have Ongaro, but he's not coming over to America. But they're missing that. I'm not saying to get Rivkin, but it seems like they need that 8 scale driver to accompany Rivkin. I think Aiden can do it. I think Horn, Tallard could have done it. But I was very surprised at this move. I really like CFT. And I'm happy that he landed at TLR. He looks super happy. TJ Eller, who has been the guy who designed the latest 8 scale platforms. They didn't design both of them, was the leader or a big part of the electric buggy and the new buggy.
Yeah, so basically
out.
He was the like lead designer or whatever they called that. But basically he was the guy who drew all the cars and stuff for at least the 8 scale. I do believe they have a separate guy for 10 scale.
Okay.
They have a few people who make like a lot of design decisions, like what they should do, but TJ is the guy who like draws the parts, does all that engineering side of things. So yeah, he was quite a big part of it. And it's funny that I don't know if people remember this, but I did a year ago, 2 years ago, when Joseph said that Associated does this, where they hire a guy who just graduate from school. They keep him until he knows that he can get better pay for somewhere else, and then they get a new guy.
That's exactly what happened.
What it looks like is that's exactly what happened. I don't think TJ wasn't like a Kanai or a JQ to Associated.
Right.
But the fact that he was there for, I believe, at least 5 years, and he like just as he sort of gotten used to the brand, like understands the cars like pretty much in and out at this point. Now they have to find a new guy.
Yeah, it's gonna go make real money.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate for AE, and I don't. I would say that I'm not too hopeful for them, but let's see what they figure out. I hope they take this more seriously, like the designing part of the car.
The other move that came back to AE was Brunson after 1 year at HB.
Yeah.
Going back to Associated. Now, I think that 2022 was Brunson's best 8 scale year to date. I think he made almost every final in America. He had top 5 finishes. He really liked the HB car. I do know he's moved to Arizona. I know he's good friends with Rivkin.
Yeah.
Is he going to take over that spot and try to be the 1-2 8 scale drivers? Is he going to race 8 scale a lot? What a crazy move. Did he just go to HB to spy? That's what people said. But 1 year at HB, really liked it. I heard he had some issue. I heard he might have had some issues with people. there. One of the reasons he left as well. But welcome back to Associated with Open Arms. I think if he hits it hard like he did this year, he can still do well. I don't see Jackson Brunson winning any races.
My guess is that because he moved away from Florida, he definitely I see him racing motocross, and I do believe he has a real job. So what I see this move as is he went to HB to see what could come of it. He understood that, hey, I like to hang out with Rivkin and these guys, and now he's just he's racing semi-seriously still, but he's not trying to pursue becoming a pro or anything. So I think this is a move where he just likes to be at AE more. Oh, well, Cameron died.
Oh, but, well, yeah. We got a lot more to go. So
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think basically the move is he just enjoys the AE team better, and he wants to hang out with Rivkin and these guys, and that's why he moved back.
Okay. I think that's all I have to say about AE on that front. I don't really have much more to say about them. Yeah. Let's go on to next in the list. You have Nemo Racing, Brandon Rose out, Tyler Jones in. Now, this was a surprise switch. So I knew that Brandon, I think even Nemo knew that Brandon wasn't happy, and he was openly looking for other rides. I know he's looking at Mayako. I just heard John and what the guy said, if we can keep him. So I think he wanted to be on a bigger team. We know that. I know that was one of his big points. It's a lot of pressure to be the one person on that team. Again, he had Lee Martin, but he's the early person in America.
Yeah, and
he had good performances, but had too many DNFs, too many gremlins. I want to say that Jones did not. I said this, and I'll say it over again. I think he had a better year at Nemo when he was there for that year than he had in the 2 years at Techno. Because Jones didn't really do anything at Techno. I think. I mean,
he had few good qualifiers at DNC. That's about it.
Yes, glimmers of brilliance, but no cigar in the end. And then he got gobbled up in that whole amount of talent that was at Techno at that time.
Yeah, and
I think I think this is you have it in your notes. This is his last chance to establish himself as a full-time pro. I think he works part-time or has a full-time job and does this. I see he's going to be racing a lot of 10 scale as well. So I'm not sure what company he's going to be racing with there.
Probably sure.
I think this is a good move for Nemo. Unfortunately, I don't think in America the issue is it's just it's been very hard for Nemo to catch one. And I think with S-Works having the money to spend and give people good deals, it's like Nemo hasn't never really gotten to that stage in America where it has gotten almost there at some points, but never really gotten there to where I would say, look at S-Works. S-Works has way more money involved. I mean, but with this new car, the N1 coming out, which is popular because it's new. We got to see how that's going to perform. We're going to see how Jones is going to perform. We're going to see it on these American tracks. It's going to be interesting for Nemo and Jones, I think.
Yeah, in my mind, this is sort of the perfect move for both parties because effectively they're switching drivers between similar skill levels. I'd argue Jones is even a little bit better than Rose. So I'd argue in Nemo's case, they probably had let's say similar level driver, because it's hard to really say. But similar level drivers.
Burroughs made more finals than this guy, I would say, in the last 2 years.
Yeah, but I mean,
Rose is good, man. Don't sleep on B. Rose. Don't sleep on him.
Rose is good for sure, but I think Jones has showed more hope throughout the years.
Well, he's won a big race. He's won PMB.
Yeah. So the thing is, I do say, if I would have to hire one of those, I'd go for Jones because of only one reason, and that is it has been clear that he hasn't enjoyed his time at Techno. I don't know if he's enjoyed being in the team. That I don't really know about, but definitely the way he has raced for the past few years, it hasn't been like, oh, I love like racing and stuff like that. Like, especially if he's like put results first. So I think a fresh start, a change. I'd argue the cars are pretty equal level. Maybe like the N1, I don't know how it handles, but that could, if it really is a good car, that could give him a little bit of an edge too. And also just the mental switch for him. So I think because of that, he might sort of get like, this is my last chance. I'm going to go all out. I'm just going to have fun, not going to stress about, can I be a techno for another year, whatever, like whatever things that must have been in his mind. So he has his like fresh, good mindset going in. He knows that he can win big races. And I think it's a good thing, because when you think about Rose at Agama, or at Nemo rather, like it was pretty clear he wanted a bigger team, as you said. And when you have that mentality, you're not putting 100% mental force into that thing. So I think it's a good switch for both parties. Both have sort of a mental reset. Both are happy to like be there. And I do think it's a good switch for Nemo Racing.
I agree. I think so too. I hope it lights a fire under Tyler's ass and he does what he has to do. Because there's been many guys like Tyler who have been on the cusp and don't make it. Mm-hmm. So many more. All right. Next up is WRC. I would agree with you. One of the biggest surprises signing Cav. So I honestly thought Cav done enough to stay at TLR 10 scale wise, but budget cuts played a bigger role than that. They also got Valente. Also on the American side, they got Dylan
Kaufman, I think.
Kaufman, he's going to be their manager. I think he's transitioned to that. And they also have Chris Morant, who is he's our driver, but he's also filling in as a manager as well. They seem to be getting their stuff going over there on the Ascended RC with Matt Kennedy. I see this guy Billy Card. He also was one of the questions. He seems to be a photographer. He's taking some great pics. I'm seeing WRC showing up. It slightly reminds me of JQ when we started out, but without pro guys.
I think better example is S-Works.
Yes, you said here you have similar to S-Works in 2018. Also in England they have Lewis Jones. And now they have Cavallari at this race, not at this company. They did have Lutz, but they had Lutz when it was on a different management, and that didn't work out too well.
Yeah, I think people are sort of like, if you really can't see the similarities between S-Works before they had all these top guys and WRC right now, like let's look at this. Like when S-Works became a thing, like when Europeans bought S-Works basically. After the Achusi Hara era of S-Works, they had lots of young, fast European drivers. Right now, they have Trevisan, who made the Euros last year. They have Valente, who has made the Euros mainly 2019. They have lots of regionally fast guys in Europe, like Lewis Jones in the UK, you said. And now they have one sort of big name pro, which is Ryan Cavallari in America. S-Works had that too in 2018. Ryan Cavallari signed for them. The only difference between S-Works and WRC is that S-Works had boots in 2019. Cavallari joined S-Works in 2019. So basically, the only difference is that they don't have that one. I wouldn't say Boots was at the peak of his career, but he was still a big name in Europe. So that's the only thing that's really missing, because Canas was an established guy before he joined S-Works. That's where he's made his name. And Trevisan or Valente could become that guy. I'm not saying they will, but they have that possibility in them. So if you put all this together, there's almost no difference between S-Works and WRC. They have lots of money coming in. They get on board a lot of young European drivers, and then a big name from America. And they have cars for like every class.
Well, not 10 scale. But here's the thing. Did Cavallari get big money this time? So we all agree that Cavallari was very good in 10 scale last year, mediocre at best in 8 scale. He was even out of a lot of mains. His tenure with TLR was not good. It was much better with S-Works.
Mm-hmm.
If this was Cavallari of 2018 when he was flirting with going to JQ Racing, I would say, okay. But in my honest opinion, and I'm a big fan of Cavallari, he is on the last leg of his career as a professional racer. And
he is, but I do see this as a better opportunity than TLR.
Yes, I was about to say this. He now has an opportunity. I would assume he has 2 more years. So he has 2 more years to really see if he can take this brand, put it on his back, and do what Ronafalk has done, or like Mayfield done with, similar to what Mayfield, maybe not so much with Mayfield had Drake as well, but
yeah, Mayfield is different, and the brand had a name on its own. Like this is, it's much harder to do.
Yes,
like,
much harder to do.
S-Works work at this for what 3-4 years, and now they're looking to be established. You know, like that's the issue with WRC. It's like Cavallari can win like every other race for the next 2 years, and WRC is still not going to be like, oh, we think this is one of the top brands because of their new brand, and people like have to get used to the name. So,
but Cav has to get results. He has to get results.
He does, but I do think this car will definitely suit him better. He did well under Associated. He did well under S-Works. Both pillow ball cars. He went to a C-Hub car in like totally different world, you know. So I don't think he's a bad driver. I don't think he's become worse in the past 2 years. I just think he didn't figure out how to get the car working for him. So I think this car will suit him better. Let's be honest, effectively, the car is a Mugen, you know.
Well, I'm going to say this. I know he also went to S-Works. I also know he went to Mayako. So I'm not sure if this was his first choice, but I heard.
Oh, like Cavallari?
Yeah, he made offers. He went to these companies. So he was fishing. If I know one thing about Cavallari is that he knows his value, I think, or he's very strict with his contracts, I'm told. So he probably went for, I'm sure he just went for as much. Well, I know that Mayako couldn't do it. I'm sure S-Works didn't have budget for it either. So he went with these guys. But I think if he doesn't do anything in these next 2 years, I think he, unless he does something miraculous and saves his brand or something, 2 more years to put Cav at 37. Maybe he has one more shot after this at a brand. If he gets good results.
I think if he doesn't do well in 8 scale, he's done in 8 scale. Like there's no point in someone paying him a monthly salary after this in 8 scale. Yeah. Because you can just get like a Brandon Rose. Like at this point, you can get a Brandon Rose for cheaper and get better results.
Okay.
In 10 scale, however, a different story, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay. So do you think this is going to help grow the WRC brand in America, or will it's still going to take some time? It's going to take time.
This, as I said before, Cavalier is not a guy like Mayfield. They are not guys who you like, okay, they switch that brand, I'm going to switch. Those are the guys who made their name in getting good results, and that way showing that the car is good or whatever is important to people in terms of branding. So, yeah, I think if he has a good year this year, definitely a big positive change towards WRC. But yeah, I don't see. I see he can make a big difference in the 2 years, but for the first, like the next 6 months, I don't think that this will make any difference really.
Okay, all right, but Hey, I'll be watching this. I'm still a fan of the Cav. I also like the underdog, so I want to see WRC do well. TLR. Oof. Well, TLR probably lost a lot of regional drivers. They seem to gain a lot of drive. They gained a few drivers. Cav out, probably too expensive. Tollard in, probably a little cheaper, younger. Probably, I'm not sure what he studied, but he seems to be a very smart young man. I think he'll do well as a second driver. Frankie Contreras out, but people forget that TLR has, everybody forgets about him. Tater Sontag, who's been silently doing well in 10 scale and 8 scale. And when let's be honest. I think that Fend being the national champion and whatnot is, and the amount of races he won, even though I think Mayfield may have won more races, but being a national champ probably edged him over. Fend has nothing to prove this year. Everybody's going to be chasing him. It seems like even Mayfield. I don't see much difference happening. I don't see much change with him. I still think he's going to be dominant. I think the program that they have done, yes, TLR will lose some drivers, like regional drivers, but I think they'll just make up for it. And I think they have a strong chance of winning a 10 scale world this year as well. So I think even though it's a little bit of bad publicity, I think that TLR just comes out still okay, still fine.
Yeah.
Still fine here, no problem.
I think the thing about TLR is the brand itself is strong enough where they could just not sponsor anyone apart from Fend and still stay afloat. Because they got Horizon backing, they got the brand name. Fend is winning pretty much every other race he goes to. They definitely have one of the best 10-wheel drive cars at the moment for both classes. That's what did I 10-wheel drive? I said electric 10-scale cars at the moment. Yeah, this is what when you do 2.5 hours of podcast straight, you say 10-wheel cars. 10 scale cars at the moment. So overall, I think like they are pretty set for now. Like I don't see TLR, like they could fuck up things in terms of like everyone leaving them, like fast guys. And they just like if they hold on to Fend and keep their brand name up, I don't think they're gonna have any issues.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
So it's a bit like disappointing to say that, but I don't think TLR is going anywhere. Like no matter what they do, because they have Horizon backing, they have a strong brand like Arma, and these brands are doing really well. They can always brand TLR through that. So
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, I'm not.
I don't see much of a. I don't see. I think they're doing
like even how much I think it's a bummer to say this, but if I was Horizon, I probably would have scaled back on the TLR spending as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, we're going to touch on Kyosho and HB Racing. Not much to talk about her. Polito, Tega, you have Tegasi here. I follow him on Instagram. Kyosho Italy seems to be done and dusted.
Yeah.
Lutz stays, Savoia stays, and I think Yao stays.
Yeah, so the reason why I put this here is because Kyosho Italy was like not counting, obviously, Kyosho Europe, which is Kyosho France, basically. Kyosho Italy was basically the last independent, big presence of Kyosho in Europe. There is a presence in Germany, there is a presence in France, but Spain, like I don't see that. Portugal, there is thanks to Joao, but in Italy, this like Tegesi was the guy who kept Kyosho afloat. Polito was like their driver, and now both of them are gone. So I don't see Kyosho Italy existing much further.
I see a slithering of new Kyoshos with Lutz, but not what I was expecting. I think I know this is going to piss off a lot of Kyosho people, but I think we're seeing like the rumors might come true. Like Kyosho might just end up like Tamiya at some point. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I mean by that just out of racing.
It looks really, really much like Kyosho's. Yeah, it will become a new Tamiya. I don't like at this point they would have to do massive changes to turn the tide. Like I just don't see Kyosho becoming like, I don't think they even had a guy at the World's Made, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think Kyosho will remain a racing brand for that long.
I have to agree with you. All right, HB Racing, nothing. The HB Racing, as usual, picked up a lot of regional guys. Not much movement. A little bit of movement in Europe. Not much. Brunson out. I think at the last race, they still got Little Bump, who's getting better. Obviously, the Fullers are there. Caden's starting to get up on pace. They still got Cole, but we know our feelings on Cole. He's hit or miss. HB quiet. There was that big 10 scale stuff, but that's not looking too sharp. Oh, they got Pavitas. I think
Changes.
All right for another year.
I didn't see any. Like last year was a big, HB year. Like Ronald out and then lots of like smaller names in. But right now it's like I think they've kept everyone pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen with HB. I know they need to get the new car working, and well, not working, but they need to get. Yeah, you know what? I keep hearing it from everybody. They need a new car, so we'll see how that works. I don't really have much to talk about HB Racing, to be honest, on that front.
I'm not just stoked on a new car myself, like from a design perspective.
And the 10 scale car is not getting the best reviews either at the moment. So
well, I think they've gotten enough shit for the 10 scale 2-wheel drive. So
they got a lot of shit for that. All right. So we're gonna go
give them the benefit of the doubt for this one.
All right. So now we're gonna go into tires real quick, because this is the other big moves that happened while we was going. Let's go hot race. Seems like everybody's going to hot race. Everyone besides Ogden, who went to TZO, but hot race got Barufalo, Berkan, Canas, Denny, Tebow, and that's just to name a few. Barufalo back after a year at 6 seismic.
I don't know what that was about, because like it seemed like the post Barufalo made a year ago was like, oh, we didn't agree on things and decided to go to separate ways, and now he's back. Like, what? I do not understand what happened there. Like, I guess Barufalo just realized that seismic isn't that good, I guess.
Yeah, I guess he realized it was a mistake.
Yeah, like I do not know, but I definitely pretty sure that it wasn't a good move on Barufalo's end.
Okay. Berkan, I know you have this on her. Borak is at seismic. Berkan is hot race. This is rare for these guys. They usually run the same thing.
Yeah.
But
so I made a joke on Facebook about this. Like, obviously, I do know the Kiliches well enough where they quite often have very different things for, like, for example, at one point, Burak ran the old MBX8, whereas the Berkan ran the MBX8R rear end. So they do quite often run very different setups, and it could be the case that Burak just enjoys seismic tires and Berkan likes hot race tires. But I made a joke on Facebook that no one can tell who's which. They're like, oh, one of the Kilish brothers. So they made the smart decision of signing for both brands, and then at races they can run whichever brand they choose, because no one can tell them apart. So you're on mute, but I think you like.
Did you get in trouble for that?
No, I didn't. I don't know who. I can't remember who said commented that, but obviously it's a joke. I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure like it's actually like really it's just that Burak prefers seismic over hot race. Like it could be the case.
We shall see. All right, big move I think this year was TZO. Nick and the guys picking up their first pro driver, Cole Ogden. Now I really think TZO and this push that they made this year so I would say right now, obviously it's J Concepts number 1 in America. Then we have Hot Race, I would say number 2. I'm going by America, but in Europe, Hot Race is number 1.
In Europe,
we're going by America.
in Europe, it's pretty much like
Hot race,
75% hot race, and the rest is the rest. You know, Sismic
Right.
is probably like 10%, and the last like 15% is just all random brand.
Right. So I think TZO is in a great position to be where I have TZO passing or even farther ahead than AKA and
Proline, yeah.
I think this year they will be. So they have that they are in position to be in that third spot behind Hot Race, I would say right now in America. I don't know what they're doing over in Europe, but there've been a lot of promotion. I see a lot of people running the tires. Let's see if Cole can do well with them. We'll see. But I think they're definitely in a good position where they can be, because there's a lot of tire companies out there.
But I do think it's actually good that they have Cole, because Cole is on the East Coast. TZO is
he
very
can help sell there.
Yeah. So TZO is originally very SoCal due to Nick and his crew, mostly like racing there. But now they got Cole on the East Coast. I have personally ran TZO tires on the East Coast. Very, very early versions of those, but same rubber on the East Coast. And they do work really well. So I tested them against J Concepts, and I did pretty similarly. So I think I do think Cole will do. I'm hesitant to say better with TZO than Hot Race, but at least as good with TZO than he did at Hot Race at the East Coast. And I would dare to say that he will do better with TZO than Hot Race in the East Coast, which is where he mostly races at. So I'm interested.
Is that because of the indoor races, you think? That the tire will be better there?
It's the dirt mostly. Hot Race is definitely not good for indoor. And then like the red dirt, like even if you go to like SMB and you run AKA, then you put it down like J Concepts, it's like an insane difference. Like I don't know how it is these days, but the last time I did it was like J Concepts on that type of dirt, like Southeast Coast dirt. It's just really good. And that's why you do remember Degani and JQ when they were traveling the East Coast, like they ended up finding out AKA sucked over there. So TZO was different because that was the only tire I ran on, like besides J Concepts, that has been really good on the East Coast. So I do think there is a big chance of it working out for Cole and for TZO. And I think marketing wise, having success on both coasts is going to be a good thing for them.
Okay, good stuff. All right, real quick, J Concepts, they picked up that we know Wiggins and Evans. I think I think right now you can't argue that J Concepts is the number one tire in America. And I think this is, but especially Evans, who's indoor, like, you know, his 10 scale guy, going to be it's going to help him a lot. Wiggins would definitely help him out a lot. And I think J Concepts just continues to grow bigger and bigger and more dominant. That's all I can say. And they're going on, this is their 20th year. This is their 20th year of operation. So they got a big 20-year operation.
I think what happened really was like race time events kind of killed Proline and AKA, you know? Because
to an extent, there are Proline tires that work. There are Proline tires that the Proline guys like in the Southeast.
Like, obviously, J Concepts did much better work than I'd argue Proline and AK has done in the past. So I'd say in 2018, like there was a time where like Ronnefolk won DNC with J Concepts tires. I mean, Robert was second, but like Mayfield and these guys were already J Concepts. There was like only J Concepts in top 5. Then like at every race time event, J Concept has been really, really good. So I think since that year, it has been the switch towards J Concepts solely dominating in America. I do think Hot Race is gonna get some back with like Tebow and
I think so too.
Yeah, but it's gonna be J Concepts like is gonna be the biggest American brand going forward, and has been for a while also.
Horizon, aka Proline, Ongaro out, Cav, Tebow, Denny out. Still got lots. But who's the top Proline driver now? I don't know.
Horn. Is he out?
Yeah,
too?
Horn. And then you heard all this gloom and doom that AKA is done, and then they come up with a new tire.
Yeah, the thing that I'm suspecting is they will ride it out. As long as AKA can sell tires without doing anything crazy, they will just make tires, release a new tire every year, do a little bit of product testing, and that. But they won't have pros. Same with Proline. Like, they will just run kind of like what Kyosho is doing, like they will ride out the last of the brand has to offer and then figure something out,
Okay.
I think that's what's happening.
We'll stick to American brands. As we came on here, we saw that Cav has signed for a second tenure with Raw Speed.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think about that. Like, what's going to happen with that? But we shall see.
I think Raw Speed is sort of like it's hard. I don't want to like say it's a bad thing, because I don't think it is at all. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's by at least Jason Snyder is somewhat involved with it, right?
Oh yeah, he's still involved. That's his business. He's completely involved.
I think like he's like sort of the main guy of the business, and to me, it has been like I have to say I was quite a big fan of him, like way back when he made videos. He's an entertaining guy, and from what I believe, like knowing him from his videos and stuff, is that he just kind of wants to do it as fun. And he digs cavalry, so that's why that match.
But I think he wants to make money. I think what's going to happen here is he'll run.
It's not like, I don't think he has same attitude as like, TZO, where they want to sort of get exposure, get a business, get that. I think he wants to do it his own way, like have fun at it, have make it look the way he wants to. I don't think he looks at it as like a business more so than a hobby, but obviously he handles it as a business. I'm pretty sure of that. But
yes,
like I think for him it's more of a hobby.
All right, Seismic, Borak in, Buffalo out. No, nothing really more to talk about that. I still don't see Seismic gaining popularity in America at this point.
Yeah, they
and
won't.
then you have the new kid on the block, which hasn't been announced, but we all know it's coming. It's Matrix, who make on-road tires. Now dabbling into the off-road market. Looks like they got Ongaro, and we saw Vari as a part of them. I do know that the person behind this has a lot of money as well. So
Matrix is a huge, like very, very old brand in on-road tires.
Okay.
And the thing about Italy is there's a fuck ton of plastic and rubber production in Italy. That's why that's why hot race is a thing. Like that's why there's a lot of Italian brands of tires and bodies and stuff. So the plastic and rubber production in Italy is quite a big industry. And I do believe Matrix has something to do with, I have no clue, but I'd expect they have, some connections to that other production of rubbers. But definitely now, Vari is part of who is Ongaro's old mechanic, is part of Matrix, and he already released a picture of the tire, so it's pretty much like.
And I heard they might have another top driver coming to them as well, but I'll let that be play out.
I mean, Ongaro isn't confirmed, but like he's old mechanic. They definitely, I do believe, remain somewhat friends. Ongaro trusted Vari a lot on tire choice. Like they did crazy things. Like they cut the tire and shortened the tire, like reduced the diameter by like fucking, really? I don't even like very little, but cut the little piece of the tire, re-glued it so that the diameter was shorter. And did stuff like that. And that's all Vari. So
okay.
He's very, he knows a lot about tires. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Ongaro go to Matrix, especially after the AK move, because I don't see Ongaro going to hot race. So yeah, I do see Ongaro going. I do not know about anyone else, but
okay. we're gonna go over. I think that's it for tire companies. We're gonna do real quicker because we're not trying to go too long. But we had some engine changes. Obviously, Robert Battier to Corsa, the official release of all the products for 2023. The nitro engines, batteries, electronics will be available or are available in USA now, I believe.
Yeah.
They didn't really get anybody. I saw they got Jordan Lott, but no real other American racers yet.
No, they definitely haven't. Like, I don't think
they haven't started
at
yet.
a position. Yeah, I mean, Ronnefolk and Battier are pretty natural, like drivers because they are friends with Adrian and they have been, David definitely, he was there before the brand even existed.
Ultimate, I agree with you.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens when they start getting when they announce the distribution and all that there in America.
Yeah.
Tebow to Ultimate, not really surprised her affiliation with Brent at Beach RC. He was a Beach RC driver for a while, so he joins the list. I think it's like Seth and Dalen, Dakota Fenn and Tebow. I think that's his no. Ogden, I think he's good. Right? Yeah, Ogden. Sorry. So he's got. I think he's going to be fine there. Not really shocked at this. But the biggest shock for me was Rivkin to Reds. And when I see this, I just think, show me the money. Because wasn't he like under the Drake thing or something like that before? Rivkin was also one of those drivers that was with MX for a long time. So
yeah,
I assume he's getting a decent paycheck from Reds.
Yeah. So I think what happened was when MX went bust, he was like, okay, I'm going to just get a good engine for next year because it's a Worlds year. I don't want to do anything dumb for now.
Right, I can see that.
So he was like, okay, I trust Drake. I'll get he probably didn't get any money from it, very little if he did. And now he's like, okay, next year is 10 scale Worlds. I don't really give a shit about Nitro for now. And he got a paycheck from Reds. Now, I don't think for Reds, it was a dumb move. I think it's a good move. It could be a good move for Rivkin too. But for me, it's this is the 5th top level pro Reds signed from America. I don't know. And it has never really worked out. First they had Ogden, then they had Mayfield.
Well, they had Mayfield first.
They did? I think Ogden was their first.
Maybe.
I think it was Ogden, then Mayfield. Then they had Fend. Then they had
Fend ran Reds.
Yeah, he ran Reds for a year or two. And got quite much money from them as well.
Yeah, I think this is
that's what I'm saying. You didn't even remember Fend ran Reds, so
yeah. But I'll be honest with you,
works out for Reds this time.
Yeah, I still see Reds as the second engine to OS based engines out there. Yeah, but I think with Corsa Tech coming behind them, and then there's other engines
I think what you said to me is just a bit funny because second engine to OS based engines, but 75% of the market is OS based engines. Right, okay. I have to be honest, I do respect Reds a lot, and they do have a very, very big market share in Europe. And I'm not laughing at them. I'm just laughing at the current situation where they really the OS has for some reason gotten so dominant in the engine market. But I do see Reds climbing back, and I do hope that this time with Rivkin, it works out for them. And same with Corsa coming out. There finally might be a turn in the OS dominance because when I drove David's car, the Corsa engine feels really amazing. The feeling is good. I do not know about how long it lasts. Does it have flame out issues? What David seems to have gotten no issues last year. So most likely will be a really, really good engine when it comes out. Reds has definitely stepped up their game in the past few years. Good mileage is one of their benefits right now. Nova is coming back with engines. Don't know if they're going to sign any big names. They have signed a few Italian guys, but that's about it. So I really, really hope the competition in the engine market will return again. I really hope that's.
And let's not forget, we have the Nova comeback as well.
I did call that out.
So we have that coming back. They look. Sorry, I got a message. I got something special for us to play here at the end of this show. So tune into the end of the show. All right, engines. Enough about them. We have to talk about some 10 scale stuff, and we're going to be real quick about that.
So that's all about 8 scale. So we went for 2 hours, 1.5 hours about all the SillySeason moves only. So I have to say that, like, just to wrap this whole thing up, because people have been listening to us be like, oh, someone went to somewhere. Just to wrap this whole thing up, I think the big lines I would draw from this SillySeason is the established old brands have realized the situation of the RC market. Associated didn't get any big names. TLR got taller, but threw out Cavalieri, so downsizing. So effectively, AE and TLR have downsized from past year. The uppercomer teams like S-Works,
Mayako.
I'd say those are the. I mean, to me, those seem to be the two big, up and comer teams at the moment. S-Works and Mayako, because they are gaining popularity regionally and have a good, pro driver presence.
Okay, all right, Max. So.
Yeah,
let's just call it before we get into 10 scale, because we're only going to talk briefly about that. Let's throw out, in your opinion, who was the biggest winner of SillySeason? Let's just go. We're not going to go by tire brands and all that stuff. We're just going to go chassis brand and driver. Who is the biggest winner of SillySeason for you? Chassis and driver.
It's hard. I'd like to say Mayako. Because they made 2 big moves that will be beneficial for both parties. Not like, Mayako got the exposure by signing like Cavalieri, who's on his way out by the looks of it. Like they got Thibaut, who's still passionate, still wants to win, and Barrier, who's passionate, wants to win, has the talent and all that stuff, and also the exposure. But then again, I do think Mayfield to Techno was the biggest move of the SillySeason. And
who's the biggest winner driver wise?
I like 10 times out of 10, I'd switch Thibaut and Jones for Mayfield if I was Techno. If I was other brand, maybe not. But if I was Techno, I would. So, all right, driver wise, I'd say Thibaut. Driver. Okay, I put it this way. For Techno, Mayfield to Techno was the best move for Techno. For driver-wise, I think it's Thibaut for the following reasons. He definitely didn't ever grow to his full potential at Techno. I don't know what the exact reason is, but for some reason, he just didn't grow to his full potential that he did at Kyushu. Even at his late time, just before he left, he even had those good, really, really good races. So why I think he's the biggest move for a driver is because he has the support system that he never had at Techno. At this level, definitely he didn't have at Techno. He has a fresh start once again, and a chance to make a last hurrah in his personal career, as well as having a clear, post-pro career, way of making a change in the RC world. And I think for him, the mental change, and I'd also argue the car change is a positive, but the mental change is such a big thing for him, because every time I just read the community, my NPC community post, it does give more excitement, and I think that's exactly what he needs. Support, excitement, help, the structure, things that he feels like he's doing things. I think that's what's gonna keep him going. and then he has that passion that he can drive well still. So yeah, I think Tebow was the best move. Tebow to Mayako was the best move for a driver, and Mayfield.
I would say for Mayako too, to be honest.
Oh yeah. I think it was obviously it was a very, very good move for Mayako, but like I'd argue that Mayfield to Techno was a bigger move for Techno than Tebow to Mayako was for Mayako, because Mayako already has like Ronafol. They don't need a number one. They just need, experience, exposure, like that stuff, Whereas Techno, they were always lacking that number one guy, and now they finally got it, So Tebow is like, how should I put it? Tebow is an important piece of the structure at Mayako, but Mayfield is like the grand jewel of Techno. Kind of, that's how I put it. So that's why I'd rate Mayfield a bigger move for Techno and Tebow for a drive. Okay. That's my
so
winner.
real quick for 1 second. For me, so mine's a little bit controversial or a little bit different. On business side of things, I think Mugen that probably had the biggest winner because they freed up money and they're still going to stay popular for another couple of years, right? So I have that. The business side of me wants to say that. The other side of me wants to say Mayako because they got, Robert Battier and Tebow. And I think, I know that they have to work hard and grow the brand to make it work. But I still think the move for Techno getting Mayfield was the ballsiest throw down, put your money where your mouth is type of thing. And that's what Techno done. Yeah. As for driver, oh man, I think the driver to get the best, it's hard to say. Like I'm kind of, I don't know driver wise who got the best deal. So I'm not sure who that was. Let me think about that and I'll come back to you. But company wise, I want to say Mugen. Who is the biggest loser in your opinion?
Yeah, I want to say about Mugen that I would agree with you. If we looked at just the current situation, I agree with you. But if we look at Mugen from 5 years from now, this was not a good silly season for them. Like unless they have a plan that we don't know about, I don't think like this is not a sustainable thing. So that's why I didn't really think Mugen was the winner. But I do agree that business-wise, it was probably a good decision. And having Killage Brothers and Drake,
yeah, exactly.
For them. Yeah.
That's what I meant. But they still have these good guys, like
Yeah. But then the losers, Cav. I just have to say, on the driver's side, Cav.
Yeah, I would have to say Cav was the biggest loser. Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking.
Biggest brand in RC, Horizon, like TLR under Horizon, and running Proline. He lost his spot there and had to scramble out there, sort of go to all the way to the bottom shelf and find.
And that's not a disrespect to the guys at WRC.
No,
that's just.
I'm not. What I'm saying is like this is a good chance for WRC, and this is a chance to prove that they don't belong like to be like the last brand the pros choose from. This is a chance where they can prove that. But at the moment, like being honest, like if you are a pro, you go through all the other brands and then you go to WRC last. At this point, like it's just a fact. Like I don't think anyone will be disagreeing with that. But for them, like every brand has to do it. Every brand has to work to prove their name, and then they can say, "Hey, we're at the top now." But yeah, Cavalieri definitely the biggest loser in the silly season. Brand wise, the biggest loser in the silly season. That's much harder because I don't think any brand really lost.
Yeah. People would say TLR, but I don't think so. I think
no, definitely.
I think TLR is going to be just right.
Yeah, they still have Fend. They freed up money. They have Tollard, who's I mean, he could even do as well as Cav did in 8 scale this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, arguably. In 10 scale, definitely do pretty much as good as Cav did.
Mm-hmm.
So, effectively, they have an equal level driver for less money. Then they have arguably the best driver in America at Fend. And they have good marketing, good presence. So, no, TLR is definitely not a loser.
Okay. I would agree with you on that too. No, I have no real disagreement there. I think that's about it for 8 scale though. The biggest winner, man.
Hey, I know. Kyosho lost this season.
Yeah, they went on more and more. Yeah, they're losing every year it seems like, and that's
I mean, Kyosho, okay. Kyosho and Cab, biggest losers, biggest winners, Tebow and Techno.
I would say I would have to throw WRC as a winner too. They win. They still get a Cav, and it's still relevant too.
Yeah. Okay, I do agree with that. Yes, I wouldn't say WRC is the biggest winner,
but they're a winner.
But they are a winner, and to me, one of the biggest surprises because I didn't think WRC would get a world champion or a top level pro, and quite a lot of fast young drivers and regional drivers. Which they did.
I agree with you. All right. We're going to go on to 10 scale. We're not going to spend much time on that because I'm going to have a 10 scale recap of this race with Warner Crime, hopefully on Tuesday. But in the terms of Yokomo, you have obviously Lee's gone. They still have the Killix that are staying. You say probably German distributor. They still have a big touring car team.
But that's the thing. Touring car has always been quite separate from off-road. Like when Yokomo was really big, like Naoto was the only guy who pretty much transferred between classes. Like the touring team is very different from the off-road team. But yeah, I think next, like this year is the world's year, and Yokomo pretty much with these moves confirmed that they are out of off-road. 10 scale off-road, they're out.
That's what it seems like. Schumacher, I think biggest moves, they just signed Cavallari. They signed
Lee Martin.
Like, I kind of thought that was going to happen. Cav to them tells me that they're really going to do a big push in America.
Yeah. But I think what, like, if you think about it, Schumacher is one of the only brands left who don't have 8 scale vehicles, only 10 scale.
And I don't see it happening. Everybody's saying, well, what happened to the 8 scale? I think they're just not going to worry about that right now, especially with a 10 scale Worlds year coming up. And like, they do have
I don't think they're going to come out with an 8 scale, not for another 2 years.
And not only that, the 8 scale market is completely way more flooded than the 10 scale market for chassis.
Yeah. 10 scale market is much better for them because they have established cars. And especially now that carpet racing is becoming more popular in America, they definitely have much more footing for the American market. Okay. So, and like, this is what I'm most impressed by. It's a world's year, and Schumacher currently has the following drivers: Orlowski, Cavallari, Lee Martin, Brock Champlin, Daniel Kobevic, Pekko Ivanen, and then on top of that, they have a fuck ton of young drivers.
I would agree. I think you're going to start seeing a lot more Schumacher regional drivers popping up here soon too this year.
Oh, in America, definitely. Yeah, and someone like Jones, like I think Jones already ran for Schumacher. I wouldn't be surprised to see him, and especially now that, as far as I'm concerned, Nemo does sell Schumacher. At least
not in USA. Not in USA.
No, not in USA, but in UK. So I wouldn't be surprised if that somehow transfers on.
Yeah, they'll get all those Agama guys.
And now that Lee's at Schumacher, Nemo will definitely sell it in the UK. Like blast Schumacher now, because they don't have any other 10 scale brand to compete with. Like before, like promoting Schumacher when Lee was at Yokomo, that would have been a bit weird. But now it's like Schumacher, Agama, and
so does this put to rest the rumors of the Agama 10 scale, you think?
I think so. I think definitely, because what I understood was that 10 scale was sort of like a project that Lee was a bit involved in, at least. So now that he's a Schumacher, no way they're gonna release it like 10 scale car.
TLR. So Cav out Tallard in. Also, somebody that you don't have in her is Taylor Sontag, and also Brendan Schimmel. Brendan Schimmel, who killed it in stock for the last 2 years, has now moved up to mod. So he's gonna jump in the deep pool with the big boys. So and then they have the young kid like Kyle Go they just signed. I still think that TLR has a decent team. I think they're gonna trim the fat and they're gonna get the people that stick with them. And I think they still have a damn good chance of one of the best chances of winning at Hobby Action. And I think even Runafuck was like, I'll run a TLR because it's gonna be the best car on clay for the world. So
yeah. David has TLR cars right now, and
okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know what he's gonna run, but I'd expect him to run TLR.
Yes. Team Associated, I think they're straight. They got a plethora. They got 10 scale talent out of the Yang. I think we're gonna see Evans reinvigorated. I think we're gonna see you have her. You have Hotman and Ongaro. You forgot about Tommy Hall and Marcus Carap. And even Craggy. You ain't got Craggy in there.
Yeah, I forgot about these guys. But yeah, you're right. Like AE and Schumacher definitely have a really, really strong.
I can't go without saying my good buddy, Born a Crime. He has a while to go. But
I mean, he's a one-up, right? Not
yes, yeah, but he runs Associated, and I think the strong rumor is that Mayfield's just going to run Associated cars. And if that happens, that's going to even more. That's the rumor. I don't know. He might run whatever he wants. Who knows?
But why would it, like? Okay, this is one thing.
J Concepts has a very strong relationships, it seems, with Associated.
Hey, one thing I have been thinking. I even saw a comment about this somewhere, and I really want to say this because I bashed Techno on this podcast for so long. Now I'm gonna stand up for Techno and protect them where it is. So the Techno 4-wheel drive, it came out. It had a big, sort of like all these short course car guys and people like that were like, "Oh, this is a cool car." And what I'm gonna say is, people don't give that car credit where it's due, because it's definitely one of the easiest cars to drive in 10 scale. The only issue I have with that car, it's a slight bit too heavy. If they just a bit made it like more agile, a bit more light, a bit more modern design, that car could be actually a really good full drive car. And I'm gonna go as far, like, you remember Tebow won the relay race with that car.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So if I was Mayfield and I was Techno, what I would do is really work on the 10 scale. Like, do what you got to do. Like, make a prototype chassis, reinvent the layout a bit, use the good bits of the car, the front, the steering. A lot of the geometry is really good, and get Mayfield. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Mayfield on a podium or winning the 4-wheel drive worlds with a Techno 4-wheel drive.
Will be interesting.
So, like, I just hope it happens, because everyone was like, "Oh, the Techno 4-wheel drive sucks." But at one time when I didn't have any 10 scale sponsor, this one guy was like, "Hey, I have a Techno 4-wheel drive and I don't have any idea how to set it up." And I helped him a lot. Like, I drove his car for a few days, and it was actually really fucking good. I did faster than like the guys who was running Associated at the local club, who like were really fast at that time. So yeah, I do think the Techno 4-wheel drive is actually really good, and it's one of those cars that has gone very much under the radar. And I really, really hope if he runs Associated, he does what Tebow did, which is 2-wheel drive Associated, 4-wheel drive Techno.
Sweet.
So yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
2 companies you haven't mentioned. We're going to touch on them, and we're going to be done with this. And then we're going to have this special treat. You don't have SRX on her, who got
Oh,
Newman.
fuck, I forgot. Yes. S-Works made some big moves. So last year they got Clement Boda. This year they got Neumann. So they do
and Bornhorst and Heckert and
they have been really active in Tenska.
Really active. So good moves of them. I don't know if we're gonna see if Brandon Rose does go. I don't know if we're gonna see him running it, but we're gonna see a lot more S-Works as well. X-Ray, pretty quiet. I mean, they have Coelho, they have Bayer, they have Tasman.
I think I'm gonna be honest and go a bit sort of shooting a bit off the hip, but my feeling is that X-Ray is kind of in a bit of financial difficulty. I have no clue if this is true, so don't take my word for it. But what it looks like is X-Ray is just like living at the moment. Like what I've heard from distributors, and this has a lot to do with energy prices, the Ukraine war and stuff like that. But what I have heard from distributors, X-Ray is a bit of a shit show at the moment. But yeah, I don't know what's actually going on in the company, but that's my guess of why they haven't really made a single move during the silly season, because they don't really know what's going on. They are just like trying to survive the winter, and then like next summer when energy prices get back to, because you have to understand that in a lot of countries, like big part of heat production was about natural gas, which came through Ukraine. So it's like that has really, as far as I know, that has really hit X-Ray. And yeah, I heard through a few distributors that there's been big issues with that, energy prices and prices of products and stuff like that. So that's why I think X-Ray has been quite silent. But don't take this as a fact. Please, X-Ray, don't sue me if I'm wrong. But
you probably do now. You're probably X-Ray's enemy, Max. You probably. I think they're content with what they have.
That's true. I mean, I didn't mean that they should have done moves, because they do have a great team. They are really looking good for going into 10-scale worlds. Like Bruno is probably going to fight for the win.
And don't forget Tasman.
Yeah,
you forget about the Canadian.
And they have that Muhammad. Who the fuck was that?
Ben Mohammed.
Yeah. Ben Mohammed. Yeah. That guy, the really young French driver.
But this is going to be a little different. This is clay. This is American clay. This is something I want to see. I want to know how many of the Europeans are going to be coming over to do some practice. I know Misha's coming soon, so it's going to be interesting to see. Max, I think that wraps up our immense analysis of.
Do we do biggest losers, biggest winners from Densko?
Nah, I think we're fine. It's not that Yokomo is the biggest loser.
Yokomo biggest loser, Schumacher and
biggest winner.
Biggest winners.
Yeah, I would agree. You know what, Max? So that was a lot of talking. While we was doing this, so for those who are listening to this, we talked about Tebow, but actually while we're recording this, the news about Tebow actually broke just now while we was recording this. So it's like perfect timing, because we're at the end of our podcast. They do have the video up, Max. So we're going to watch it for our first time as well. My phone is blowing up right now because people are like, people are like, oh, you. I said, look, I had to keep this secret. I knew it was, Tebow all this time, but I haven't seen this video. So I'm interested to see what this video is about. So we're going to watch it for the first time, Max. Let me put it to the stream. Let me know if you heard this. If you're hearing this. Can you hear it?
Yep.
Jared Tebow here, and I'm the new Mayako USA Community Manager. With my new role at Mayako, I'm going to have a couple different things that I'm doing. I'm still going to be a professional driver, traveling to all the races, racing, showcasing the products, working on development with the products as far as testing, product development, things like that. But as far as the community manager side, I will be helping to grow the Mayako community in the U.S. as far as new members, showing what the membership really is about, and also the Discord and service centers for the U.S. So with the Discord, all customers can go on the Discord. Members have special pages that they can go on, special forums, special meetings, things like that. So I'll have weekly NPC meetings. We will be doing rent sessions and also some Q&As. That will be a large part of my role at Mayako. The performance of the Mayako MX-8 has truly outperformed my expectations, and the car drives amazing. The handling is really good. I would say just the rear end grip that the car has and the stability. Not twitchy off center, but rotates really good, carries a lot of good corner speed. I can't wait to get out to the track and race it. I feel super comfortable with the car already. I think I'm going to have a long future here at Mayako.
We're all living in America, America, America. We're all living in America. Coca-Cola, wonderful.
Well, I'm going to get copyrighted for that.
Oh, yeah, true.
I'm not going to be able to monetize that. I'm going to get copyrighted for that. Thanks, JQ. But it's official. We already knew, but as we was recording this, the news broke. Welcome, Jared Tebow. I really like those Mayako release videos. It's really good.
Yeah.
Let's get racing. It's time to get racing. So, what to watch this weekend, everybody? What did you think of the video, Max? It had a very JQ style to it. Very good. JQ's getting good with his editing.
Personally, I'm a huge fan of Rammstein. We're actually going to see them next fall with my girlfriend.
Oh, really?
As well. So yeah, that made me feel good. But yeah,
I think that's the music that JQ was playing in his speaker at Mayfield during the banquet. It was Rammstein.
Yeah. But yeah, big fan of Rammstein. But on the video itself and Tebow, yeah, I mean, he said what we'd already talked about. Like, he's super excited about the car, and he has good attitude. He seems like he's feeling good about next year, or this year rather. I don't know. I feel good. I mean, and I think it's nice to sort of finally have a US driver being involved in Mayako myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good.
And overall,
that's good.
if even if you're not affiliated with Mayako, you gotta be like excited about this, because if you're just a Tebow fan, I think it's a really good move for him.
I agree. I think that silly season all wrapped up right there, Max. I think if there are some other moves coming, there might be some surprise moves, but yeah. I think it's all. We spent 3.5 hours, 3 hours and 15 minutes roughly talking about this. We thank you all for the continued support. Oh, what to watch this weekend? So we got the Clash of Champions at Hoosier Hobbyplex this weekend. We'll be following that. There will be coverage. We also have the IB Padova one-man standing race. Is that what it's called? That's the big last man standing.
It's one man, one race, I think.
Okay, sorry. So now the Killicks and a lot of the top Italians there and a lot of Europeans have made the trip down there. And of course, next weekend we have SIC, first big 1/8 race in America. Next week, I'll hopefully have Born a Crime on her. We're going to do a recap. We're going to get to talk to him. I think Born a Crime, if he works out, is going to be my 10 scale guy. He's at the race at the Clash of Champions, sorry. Mm-hmm. And hey, we didn't get much time off, dude. We're back racing again. The RC season is long.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. Like, even though we always paint the picture of doom and gloom for, RC, like, we should be doing things differently, I'm really happy that 2023 seems to be still booming for RC. Lots of races, Still lots of people running as a pro. Yeah, the market is oversaturated. Yes, it has its issues. All the things we talk about. But after all, I'm really happy that RC is still here. It seems to do really great. And we're going to have a really, really exciting season of racing.
I agree with you. All right, Max, I think that's it. I want to say thank you to all of the NNRC squad around the world. We can't do it without you guys. Thank you for all your support. Thank you to the patrons of the NNRC and the YouTube members for your support. You guys will get some extra stuff next week, I believe. Early releases. I would give early release of this, but it's just going to be too late. And we recorded late today, waiting for this announcement. If you wish to be a YouTube member or patron, the link is in the written description of this podcast. It really helps us out. Thank you to the awesome companies that supported us last year and if they continue this year. And if you are a company that wants to be added to this list and you like what we're doing, send me a message. But shout out to Invisible Speed, Hitec RC, TNR Fuel, Sunpadow USA, Mayako, Beach RC, Techno RC, Lugs Racing Tires, Clinic RC, Papa Willie's Traction Tonic, Ardent Imprints, RC Haws, RC Craft, Racecraft USA, House of RC. Shout out to my boy Danny Paz of WRCE, RCGP, David Runnerfolk of the Runnerfolk Racing, JTP RC. I'm sure we'll have Teebs on her a lot more as well as we continue. And shout out to Robert Bob Badier and of course our good friend, the Dr. Alex Hackberg. Shout out to all the also I was on a podcast this week. I was on the Grid Talk, another English podcast, and shout out to all the podcasts. Wheeling Triggers out with Brent. I like that one too. And it's gonna be a lot of. I'm looking forward to this year. I'm looking forward. I'm excited. And RC is awesome. And yeah, I'm happy. Max, I think that's it. We're done. No more talk. With that said,
hey, before we go, I want people to tell me if I should make this 2 years promise that I'll be less arrogant on the podcast. What do you think?
I don't know. I think people like you and people dislike you, and you got to just go with whatever makes you happy.
Yeah,
that's all that comes down to.
So I'm like actually not this arrogant in real life, but somehow this role has grew on me. I kind of like it, but I don't know if I should keep doing it or if I go mad by doing it. So leave a comment down below if you like my arrogance.
Also, don't forget to hit that notification button, that like or dislike button. Leave a comment. Sub button. We want to grow this channel. Don't forget our Instagram, our TikTok as well, and our Facebook. All of the links for that on the written description of this podcast. Max, it's time to go. We're out. See you later, man. It was good talking to you. We haven't talked for a long time, but we definitely talked a lot. Lefty and Max.
See you later, everyone. You'll be hearing a lot of me this year. I promise that. I'll be on the podcast more often.
Good stuff. All right, Maxie.
Now I'll shut up. Okay.
There you go. Goodbye. Have a good evening. Get some sleep. Talk to you later.
Goodbye, everyone.